Chapter 2898. 10 miles away, on a hill, more than 100 cultivators were watching the battle between Su Fangda and Nan Xian. The leading cultivator stood out like a crane in a flock of chickens, exuding an unparalleled dominance. The silhouettes of mountains above his head were densely packed, more than Su Fang's. There were more than 100 of them. This person was Dongxian Huiwang. Since entering Shirua Valley, Dongxian Huiwang had either subdued and worked for him, or had their Shirua talismans taken away and kicked out of Shirua Valley. Right now, he had subdued more than 100 contestants and seized more than 100 Shirua talismans. Staring at Su Fang for a while, Dongxian Huiwang nodded and said, "Yes, this person should be Su Fang. I sent him an invitation on behalf of young Master Huiwang." Not only did he humiliate young Master, he also took my Shirua talisman and injured me severely, a cultivator said, adding fuel to the fire. Another cultivator sneered disdainfully. "He's just an ant from a low-level universe. How dare he be so arrogant after winning first place in the previous 5 tests?" Dongxian Huiwang said, "Don't underestimate this person. How can he be an ordinary person if he can take advantage of the Jioshuan's Heaven's Choice and even surpass me? However, I won't let him get any fortune in the 6th test. He's about to die. Let's go and wipe out all the arrogant Nanxian contestants." Dongxian Huihuang's subordinates were about to move. All of a sudden, Su Fang struck out a shocking seal. A terrifying divine aura that could seal everything turned into a world in an instant, enveloping more than 20 Nanxian cultivators and monster race experts. Su Fang was exuding the aura of a supreme ruler, controlling everything in the world, including the fate of the Nanxian contestants. My Lord's seal of 10 directions. The Nanxian contestants were shocked when they were trapped in the world. In Shirua Valley, it was difficult to unleash the full power of a supreme art, even if one obtained it from the Divine Tower. It was obviously not an ordinary art to be able to cast a domain and turn it into a world. Next, they were shocked to find that the surrounding space-time and energy had been sealed. Even the laws had stopped operating. Everything had been sealed. They fell into the world, like pigs and sheep waiting to be slaughtered. Boom, boom. With a single thought, Su Fang unleashed godly auras from his world, shattering the masks of the southern Xian contestants. The entire process took less than 10 breaths of time. More than 20 Nanxian contestants were all eliminated. When the power of my master's 10 directions seal disappeared, only 70 overrunes were left on the spot. Su Fang stored all the void light talismans into his internal space. Now, there are more than 120 void light talisman phantoms above his head. The Xian Guang emitted by the densely packed Xian Ruo talisman was so dazzling in the Xian Ruo Valley. At the same time, it was like a genius halo that enveloped Su Fang's head, making Su Fang extremely eye-catching. The cultivators who were watching from afar originally planned to take advantage of the situation to loot, but at this moment, they were constantly retreating, afraid that Su Fang would kill them all and rob them of everything. Many of the contestants on the hill were also timid and fearful. Dongxian Huihuang's voice was filled with murderous intent. Although Su Fang's ability is extraordinary, the more powerful the ability, the more it consumes. He's an arrow at the end of its flight. Go kill him. Whoever eliminates him will take half of his void light talismans. Half of the void light talismans? Many of the cultivators on the hill looked at Su Fang with the fire of greed burning in their eyes. They all charged at Su Fang. The cultivators who were prepared to leave after being intimidated by Su Fang's ability saw so many cultivators charging at Su Fang. Greed burned in their hearts, and they planned to take advantage of the situation. Jioshuan's higher-ups designed the 6th level, Xian Ruo Valley, not only to let the contestants obtain the supreme fortune, but also to obtain the fortune, one needs strength and courage. Humph! If you want to take Su Fang's fortune, then you have to pay the corresponding price. Looking at Dongxian Huihuang's subordinates who were charging at him, Su Fang's heart burned with unquenchable courage. Even if it was the god of heaven who wanted to take away his fortune, he would suppress them all. Whoever dares to take away my fortune will be Su Fang's enemy. My ability is powerful. If I slip up and injure or even kill all of you, don't blame me." Su Fang shouted at the cultivators who were charging at him. Although the 6th level forbade intentional killing, it was not completely forbidden. Su Fang was surrounded by so many experts. He would not be punished if he accidentally killed a few of them with his ability. However, Dongxian Huang Huihuang's subordinates were already at the point of no return. Moreover, they were blinded by greed. How could they take Su Fang's warning to heart? TSK, TSK, TSK. A domineering saber technique that could annihilate everything was unleashed. The saber light swept across the area. The cultivators who were charging at him also used their abilities to shatter the saber light. However, the saber light that Su Fang had comprehended in the auxiliary tower was truly shocking. 3 other cultivators were also affected and were immediately injured. The 100 over cultivators that Dongxian Huang Huihuang had gathered in Shirua Valley were all experts. They had all entered the auxiliary tower and obtained extraordinary abilities. Soon, Su Fang was surrounded. "Su Fang, you try to take away my Shirua talisman. Don't blame me, Dongxian Ji, for being merciless now." A cultivator rushed towards Su Fang in a hurry. It was the Heaven Court disciple, Dongxian Ji, who had been chased by the South Mystic cultivators and saved by Su Fang. "How can a despicable person like you be a Heaven Court disciple? My master seal of 10 directions. Suppress all of you." Su Fang's killing intent rose as he once again unleashed my master seal of 10 directions. The shocking powers sealed the heavens, the earth, the east, the west, the south, the north, the life, the death, the past, and the future. At this moment, Su Fang was like the supreme ruler of all 10 directions in the world. More than 30 cultivators were trapped in the world created by my master seal of 10 directions and were all suppressed by Su Fang, eliminated from Shirua Valley. At the same time, Su Fang absorbed the cultivators' Shirua talismans into his body. What kind of ability is this? It's so shocking. Dongxian Huang Huihuang's previous speculation was wrong. Su Fang still has the ability to unleash that powerful ability. The remaining cultivators were all shocked. Their Tao hearts and wills were shaken as fear grew in their hearts. Yin-Yang Chaos Palm. Dongxian Huang Huihuang seized the opportunity to strike. His hands crossed as he struck out a black and white palm print. The palm print quickly turned into a swirling black and white vortex, circling above Su Fang's head. From the center of the black and white vortex, a wave of divine power erupted, causing Su Fang to feel that his origin soul was about to break free from his body. His consciousness was rapidly blurring as well. "I've cultivated in an auxiliary tower for 1,000 years and obtained this unparalleled ability, the Yin-Yang Chaos Palm. It could devour the origin soul. No matter how extraordinary your ability is, you can't escape the fate of being suppressed. Su Fang, kneel and beg for mercy. I'll only take your Shirua talisman and won't hurt you." Dongxian Huang Huihuang's figure flashed as he shouted at Su Fang domineeringly. His gaze towards Su Fang was filled with delight. "If you want my Shirua talisman, why don't you come and take it yourself?" Su Fang gritted his teeth and shouted. His face was filled with pain and his gaze was lost. "Since you're still unwilling to submit, I have no choice but to be merciless." A trace of ruthlessness flashed in Dongxian Huang Huihuang's eyes as he flashed towards Su Fang. Of course, he wouldn't kill Su Fang. Instead, he wanted to severely injure Su Fang and even shatter Su Fang's Taoist palace to vent his hatred towards Su Fang. At this moment, outside the main tower, a woman dressed in black was watching the scene where Su Fang was about to be suppressed with a cold expression. It was Sima Xiao Xiao. I thought Dongxian Huang Huihuang could be considered a genius. I didn't expect him to be a shameless villain. Sima Xiao Xiao scoffed at Dongxian Huang Huihuang's actions. Dongxian Huang Huihuang had first ordered his many cultivators to deal with Su Fang and then ambush Su Fang. Such actions were indeed despicable. "Su Fang, You've taken away my celestial, blood-refined mastiff in the elite competition and soared into the sky. Today, Dongxian Huang Hui Wang has taken away your void of illusion talisman and severed your fortune. You only have yourself to blame. Dongxian Huang Hui Huang's lips curled into a smug and cold smirk. With a palm strike, he was about to shatter Su Fang's Taoist palace. A mysterious aura suddenly surged out of Su Fang's body. The whirlpool that could devour souls was still above his head. The divine aura that enveloped Su Fang began to shatter. Then, Su Fang stretched out his right hand and pointed his index finger at Dongxian Huang Hui Huang's palm. Sima Xiao Xiao, who was standing in front of the main tower, narrowed her eyes. Su Fang used this power to injure Qiu Changfeng. What kind of power is this? How can it be so terrifying? No, it's not a power. It's a powerful and advanced force that's above all other forces. Sima Xiao Xiao's deep eyes were filled with shock and curiosity. The power that Su Fang had unleashed was the origin of all energy, the primordial qi. There was only a sliver of it in his Jiushuan Taoist palace. Once it was unleashed, it would take almost 1,000 years to recover. After injuring Qiu Changfeng, the top genius of Jiushuan, Su Fang had stayed in the auxiliary tower for 900 years. Now, a sliver of primordial qi had been reborn in the Taoist palace of Jiushuan. Poof! Su Fang gathered the primordial qi on his finger and collided with Dongxian Huang Hui Huang's palm. Dongxian Huang Hui Huang's palm first, then the part of his right arm below his elbow, was immediately shattered and quickly turned into ashes before disappearing into nothingness. The primordial qi was so powerful. Although there's only a sliver of it, it was so powerful. Dongxian Huang Hui Wang retreated quickly. The elation and smugness in his heart were gone, replaced by endless shock and fear. When the other cultivators saw that Dongxian Huang Hui Huang was severely injured, they all trembled and lost the courage to face Su Fang. They all fled into the distance. Su Fang, how dare you cripple my right arm? Chapter 2899. Dongxian Hui Huang's right arm had been injured by Su Fang's primordial qi. Not only had it completely destroyed his vitality, it had also destroyed the law of life that used blood and qi to heal his right arm. This meant that Dongxian Hui Huang's right arm was completely crippled. Unless it was some extremely rare spiritual item of heaven and earth, or a true top expert who spared no expense in helping him, there would be a chance to heal him. Not only Dongxian Hui Huang, but Qiu Changfeng, whose arm had been destroyed by Su Fang, had also suffered the same fate. The loss of an arm for a Taoist master was not fatal to his ability. However, to any cultivator, losing an arm was naturally a humiliation, let alone a top genius like Dongxian Hui Wang. The cultivators who had besieged Su Fang and the contestants who were watching from afar looked at Su Fang with fear in their eyes. How terrifying was the power to destroy a divine body and not be able to heal it. Kill him for me. I will bear all the consequences. Dongxian Hui Wang had completely fallen into a frenzy, roaring furiously at his subordinates. The cultivators hesitated, but no one attacked, putting aside whether they would be punished or not. Just Su Fang's terrifying ability to suppress more than 30 experts in one fell swoop, and that shocking finger strike was enough to send anyone to their deaths. Dongxian Hui Wang said coldly, "You dare disobey my orders? Don't forget, although I've lost my right arm, my ability is still there. With my position in Heaven Pavilion, I can end your future with a single word. If you don't want to die, do as I say immediately." The cultivators were helpless, gritting their teeth and charging towards Su Fang again. Whoosh! A divine aura suddenly descended, enveloping the dozen cultivators who were charging at the front. In an instant, the dozen or so cultivators fell into a world of raging black flames. Losing all contact with the outside world, their physical bodies and Taoist palaces began to burn, and the masks on their faces melted rapidly. Fortunately, as the masks were destroyed, a distorted divine aura surged out from the space and sent them out of Shiruo Valley in time, escaping the fate of being killed. A beautiful figure appeared in the crowd's sight. Sima Xiao Xiao. There were not many women in the finals of the Blood Valley. Only Sima Xiao Xiao could possess such terrifying ability. Su Fong raised his eyebrows. He did not expect that Sima Xiao Xiao would actually suddenly make a move at this time and help him resolve the crisis. Dongxian Hui Huang shouted coldly, Sima Xiao Xiao, how dare you interfere in this reputed one's affairs? Sima Xiao Xiao said icily, Dongxian Hui Huang, you're but a despicable man. Why can't I interfere in your affairs? If you're not convinced, you can challenge me at any time. However, do you dare? What had Dongshuan's glory ever suffered such contempt? He was so angry that his eyes were spitting fire, but he didn't have the courage to challenge Sima Xiao Xiao. Sima Xiao Xiao, Dongxian glory, will remember what happened today. I will be the first to challenge you in the upcoming ranking match. Dongxian Hui Wang snorted coldly and walked towards the tower. Sima Xiao Xiao suddenly said, you can't enter the main pagoda. Dongxian Hui Wang was enraged. Sima Xiao Xiao, are you bent on going against this reputed one? Sima Xiao Xiao said nonchalantly, so what if I am? Your despicable actions have made me dislike you very much, so I have revoked your right to enter the main pagoda. If you're not convinced, you can challenge me at any time. If you defeat me, you can naturally enter the main pagoda at any time. However, if you lose, you'll be kicked out of Shuiruo Valley and lose the chance to obtain a fortuitous encounter. Her tone was calm and pleasant to the ear, but it was extremely domineering. Sima Xiao Xiao. Dongxian Hui Wang stared at Sima Xiao Xiao, his eyes filled with murderous intent. However, Dongxian Hui Wang still turned and walked towards the nearest auxiliary pagoda. Many Eastern Xian Divine Realm cultivators scoffed at Dongxian Hui Wang when they saw that the usually awe-inspiring Dongxian Hui Wang had been humiliated by a woman from Southern Xian Divine Realm and did not even have the courage to challenge her. Sima Xiao Xiao looked at Su Fong and said, You are Su Fong? It looks like it wasn't a fluke that you were able to obtain first place in Blood Valley's finals. Su Fong was wary and asked indifferently, What is Miss Sima trying to say? I am very surprised that the Eastern Xian Divine Realm has a genius like you. You are barely qualified to be my opponent. You are now an arrow at the end of its flight. I did not want to hit you when you were down, but you have eliminated dozens of Southern Xian Divine Realm participants. If I let you go, I will not be able to answer to them. What do you want? I will take half of your Shui Ruo talismans. Then I will give you a chance to enter the main pagoda or the auxiliary pagoda to recover and obtain a powerful ability. If you have the ability, you can take back your Shui Ruo talismans from me when you come out of the pagoda. Sima Xiao Xiao was actually so domineering that she wanted half of Su Fong's Shui Ruo talismans. Su Fong had just eliminated more than 30 participants and taken their Shui Ruo talismans. Now, he had nearly 200 of them in his possession. Sima Xiao Xiao wanted to take half of them. She was truly domineering. However, compared to Dongxian Hui Wang, this woman was clearly much more magnanimous. Taking away Su Fong's Shui Ruo talismans and giving Su Fong a chance to recover and challenge at the same time was domineering, but it was also open and above board. Here, Su Fong decisively took out 100 Shui Ruo talismans and swept them towards Sima Xiao Xiao. I will leave these Shui Ruo talismans with you for now. When I come out of the pagoda, I will definitely take them back from you. Su Fong stared at Sima Xiao Xiao and then strode towards the main pagoda. The many participants who were watching from afar had thought that Su Fong would have a fierce confrontation with Sima Xiao Xiao. They did not expect that Su Fong would take out the Shui Ruo talismans so decisively. No one was surprised at all. Su Fong is just like Dongxian Hui Wang. Both of them bully the weak and fear the strong. A wise man does not eat what is in front of him. Su Fong has fought so many fierce battles that he no longer has the strength to fight. What else can he do if he does not take out the Shui Ruo talismans? Does he have to wait for Sima Xiao Xiao to be eliminated and take away all his Shui Ruo talismans before he is satisfied? He still has nearly 100 Shui Ruo talismans. He can cultivate in the main pagoda for 1,000 years and gain a lot of fortune. We can't even enter the main pagoda. Why do we have to laugh at him? First it was Dongxian Hui Wang, then it was Su Fong. It looks like the Eastern Xian Divine Realm will be completely overwhelmed by the South Xian cultivators in this Blood Valley final. Many participants discussed Su Fong animatedly. Some snorted at him, while others admired his decisive decision. Sima Xiaoxiao looked at Su Fong's back and chuckled softly. This person knows when to yield and when to stand tall. He is a powerful person, much more powerful than Dongxian Huiyuan. Su Fong came to the main pagoda. The pagoda door was tightly shut. Obviously, someone was cultivating in the main pagoda. Su Fong had no choice but to sit cross-legged outside the door and wait. While he was waiting, Su Fong did not stay idle. He let the Skypiercer Blood King Rot Tan devour the vitality and blood in the foreign cultivators' corpses to recover his physical body. At the same time, he devoured Heartbreaker's cultivation base to restore the almost empty Jiushuan Dao Palace. His comprehension in the main pagoda had raised his cultivation base considerably. Now, he did not have to worry about losing control due to devouring too much energy. The Skypiercer Blood King Rot Tan's devouring ability was astounding. In addition, Heartbreaker's cultivation base was extremely strong. Su Fong had killed countless cocoon cultivators in the 5th stage and collected abundant vitality from their corpses, allowing Su Fong to recover at an astonishing speed. Many participants were attracted by Su Fong's Shui Ruo talismans. They wanted to attack Su Fong and steal his Shui Ruo talismans. However, when they thought of Sima Xiaoxiao, the greed in their hearts was completely extinguished. 50 years. The main pagoda door finally opened. A cultivator walked out of the main pagoda with a face full of regret. When he saw Su Fong sitting cross-legged in front of the pagoda door, the cultivator was stunned. Then, he looked at the Shui Ruo talisman above Su Fong's head. His eyes were full of greed. Su Fong stood up and walked toward the main pagoda. The cultivator hesitated for a moment. In the end, he could not resist the temptation of so many Shui Ruo talismans and decisively attacked Su Fong. Scram! Su Fong did not even turn his head. He waved his hand and sent out a sharp saber light. The cultivator's divine light changed instantly. His figure flashed and disappeared from the pagoda door. He appeared hundreds of feet away and avoided the terrifying attack. The cultivator broke out in a cold sweat. Who is this monster? He has so many Shui Ruo talismans and is so powerful. Fortunately, I obtained a spatial divine ability in the auxiliary pagoda. I also gained a lot in the main pagoda. Otherwise, I would be dead for sure. After Su Fong entered the main pagoda, the pagoda door immediately closed. He walked directly to the heart of the foreign race expert, Slaughter. With his previous experience, Su Fong was familiar with the process. His consciousness merged with the heart. Following the beating of the heart, he sensed the ethereal heavenly Tao. Dong, dong, dong. The beating of the heart was like the sound of the heavenly Tao. It reverberated in Su Fong's mind. His understanding of the heavenly Tao and the Jiushuan's Wuji Sutra became deeper and deeper. The Jiushuan's Tao Palace was also trembling. The chaotic vortex spun wildly, emitting the power of the heavenly Tao. It was filled with the profound heavenly Tao's luck. As time passed, his understanding of the Jiushuan's Wuji Sutra became clearer. His realm also improved rapidly. The constant trembling and operation of the Jiushuan's Tao Palace also caused Su Fong's energy to be depleted at an alarming rate. Su Fong controlled the heaven-piercing Blood King vine to devour medicinal pills without restraint. At the same time, he devoured Heartbreaker's cultivation to replenish the emptiness of the Jiushuan's Tao Palace. Fortunately, Heartbreaker's cultivation was extremely shocking. Otherwise, this blood pig would have been sucked dry a long time ago. Unknowingly, 500 years had passed. Suddenly a strand of shocking tribulation energy erupted from Su Fong's body. He'd broken through. He was actually about to break through from the peak of the Tao Lord realm to the intermediate Tao Lord realm within the main pagoda. Chapter 2900. Su Fong had been on the verge of breaking through since before the 6th level. However, His cultivation was insufficient, and it had almost caused the energy within the Tao Palace to go out of control and cause terrifying consequences. He'd relied on the Xeno race expert Slaughter's heart to cultivate in the main pagoda, and his cultivation had been sufficient since a long time ago. So, advancing into the intermediate Tao Lord realm was naturally a matter of course. Su Fong stopped cultivating and comprehending, and he came to a corner of the main pagoda. As soon as he sat down cross-legged, the tribulation energy immediately transformed into flames that whistled as they burned. The energy of advancement suddenly erupted within his body, and it formed a shocking force of impact. The impurities within the embryonic membrane started to surge out from within his body, and they were swiftly incinerated into ash by the tribulation flames. This advancement didn't seem to be anything special on the surface, but Su Fong's body seemed to have been overturned. It wasn't just his body. The entire Joshuan Tao Palace and even the various avatars within it had fallen into violent shaking and shattering into pieces. This enormous pain continued for over 20 days. Once everything calmed down, Su Fong had completed his advancement, and his entire body had undergone a transformation. The intermediate Tao Lord realm. Su Fong was delighted in his heart, and he separated his consciousness from his body and sensed it. He noticed that his body had become even deeper. His vitality was extremely powerful, and the flames of vitality were surging and blazing within his body. At this moment, Su Fong's vitality had far exceeded the limits of a Tao Lord. The body was the foundation of a cultivator, and the strength of his body represented that Su Fong's vitality had become even stronger. So, the various abilities that were established on the foundation of his body had naturally risen along with this. Along with the transformation of his body, the Heaven-Piercer Blood King vine had undergone a transformation as well, and it had completely escaped its seed state. Although the current Heaven-Piercing Blood King vine was still thousands of miles away from the height of its mother, it was 10 times stronger than before. The changes within the Joshuan Tao Palace were even greater. The chaotic vortex within the Tao Palace had become even deeper, and it was more and more like the chaotic space within the Tao Palace. It seemed to be empty, yet it contained everything and revealed boundless profundities. The space within the avatars had become even deeper, and the various avatars had undergone a transformation as well. With Su Fong's improvement of the Joshuan's Limitless Sutra, coupled with this advancement, the abilities of the various Dharmakayas had also been raised to a new height. What surprised Su Fong even more was that in the depths of the chaos vortex in the Tao Palace, not only had the strand of nebulous primordial chaos recovered, but there were also 2 more strands of nebulous primordial chaos. Su Fong had already verified the power of primordial qi from Qiu Changfeng and Dong Xinhuiwan. A single strand of Hongmeng qi was already so powerful. How shocking would it be if there were 2 more strands? Su Fong found it hard to imagine. Sima Xiao Xiao. Once I walk out of the main pagoda, not only will I take back the Void Wave talisman you seized, I'll make you pay 10 times the price. Thinking of Sima Xiao Xiao, Su Fong's heart surged with a fierce aura. Su Fong seemed very decisive when he took out half of the Void talisman, but in fact he had no choice but to do so. His heart was filled with humiliation. For cultivators, what they sought was a clear Tao heart. If one's Tao heart wasn't clear, then it would cause flaws to appear in one's Tao heart, and it would affect one's cultivation. Su Fong had always taken revenge if he had enmity. If someone punched him once, then he would punch them twice. Sima Xiao Xiao had domineeringly seized 100 Void Wave talismans from him this time. So he didn't just want to take them all back. He wanted to make her pay an even heavier price. I still have 1,500 years of time. It's a rare opportunity, and I absolutely can't waste it. Su Fong placed Sima Xiao Xiao's matter aside. He would absolutely not allow hatred to blind his reason. Cultivating the Grand Tao was the most important. Sima Xiao Xiao was just a stumbling block on his path of cultivation, and he would surpass her sooner or later. If the stumbling block blocked his path, then he would just crush it. After that, Su Fong started to concentrate on comprehending the heaven Tao with the help of Slaughter's heart. At the same time, he ceaselessly devoured medicinal pills and Heartbreaker's cultivation to recover the emptiness in his body and Tao Palace that came from advancing into the intermediate Tao Lord realm. Time flew by. Another 500 years passed. Su Fong had stayed in the main pagoda for over 1,000 years, and the void wave talismans he'd seized from other cultivators had been completely consumed. However, the Joshuan experts had rewarded him with another 100 void wave talismans, and it meant that he could continue cultivating in the main pagoda for another 1,000 years. Su Fong has already exceeded the time limit in the main pagoda. Why hasn't he come out? Could it be that something has happened to him in the main pagoda? He would naturally be teleported out once the time limit is up, but why isn't there any movement from the main pagoda? Many participants outside the main pagoda were paying attention. Cultivating in the main pagoda allowed one to comprehend the heaven Tao, and it was related to one's fortune. So, how could the participants not pay attention to it? Sima Xiao Xiao was paying attention to the main pagoda as well. Su Fong's time limit should have passed a long time ago, yet he still hadn't come out. This caused Sima Xiao Xiao to be extremely surprised and puzzled. Within the main pagoda, time flowed by without end. Su Fong was immersed in the endless evolution of the heaven Tao, following the beating of Slayer's heart. He ignored everything in the outside world and transcended the limits of time and space. Jioshuan's Wuji Sutra was also operating on its own, as if it were the endless heaven Tao. His surroundings were shrouded in a mysterious chaotic aura, and his Tao Palace was also violently shaking. From the chaos, nebulous aura was constantly being produced. 1 strand, 2 strands, 5 strands, 6 strands, together with the 3 strands of nebulous aura from before, there were a total of 12 strands. They gathered together and became 1 strand. Thump! Thump! The sound of his heartbeat was like the sound of the heaven Tao, and it eventually spread out of the main pagoda and throughout the entire Void Wave Valley. The brilliant sound of the great Tao boomed in the Tao palaces of every participant, shaking their Tao hearts and souls. Immediately after, the participants were shocked to find that their dermic powers and energy had gone out of control. They were operating according to the rhythm of the mysterious sound of the heaven Tao. The sound of Slayer's heartbeat had actually dominated their cultivation and everything else. The strange thing was not over yet. Buzz! Buzz! As the heartbeat became more and more intense, all the participants lost control of their dermic powers. Their dermic bodies flew out of their Tao palaces. Then, all the dermic bodies knelt in the direction of the main pagoda. Dermic bodies were the incarnations of a cultivator's Tao and dermic powers. But now, they were kneeling in front of the main pagoda. That was because the sound of the heartbeat from a main pagoda had resonated with the great Tao. It was above all dermic powers and dermic powers, causing the dermic bodies to submit and worship it. The participants had never experienced such a strange thing, and they had never even heard of it. They all fell into a state of intense shock and horror. Sima Xiao Xiao stared at the main pagoda, her eyes filled with disbelief. There is no one else in the main pagoda, except for Su Fong. What did he do? All dermic worship. Su Fong used Slayer's heart to sense the heavenly Tao and touch the true essence of the great Tao. It resonated with the heavenly Tao and made all dermic worship. What kind of peerless cultivation technique is this kid cultivating? It resonated with the heavenly Tao and made all dermic worship. The Joshuan cultivators who were secretly observing the cultivators in the Shiruo Valley were shocked. Since the 6th stage was a stage where many cultivators would obtain their destinies, the higher-ups of the Joshuan did not pay much attention to the Shiruo Valley. Now, they were also shocked and sent their senses out to see what was happening in the Shiruo Valley. They found out that Su Fong had touched the true essence of the great Tao with the help of Slayer's heart, causing the great Tao to resonate. The higher-ups of the Joshuan were shocked and surprised. No one knew how long it lasted. When everything calmed down, the participants regained control of their dermic bodies and hurriedly sucked them into the Tao palaces. Inside the main pagoda, Su Fong also withdrew from that strange state. He closed his eyes and carefully felt and consolidated the strange feelings he had just experienced. About half a year later, buzz, buzz, in the Tao Palace, the Jiuxuan's Wuji Sutra suddenly flashed rapidly. It felt as if an invisible barrier was suddenly pierced. A feeling of sudden enlightenment arose in Su Fong's heart. In the main tower, Su Fong had comprehended the heavenly Tao with the help of Slayer's heart and cultivated the Jiuxuan's Wuji Sutra. Now, his cultivation had reached the 4th stage. This stage had already surpassed the Tao Lord stage. The only thing he lacked was the accumulation of energy. And what Su Fong lacked the least was energy. He could use the heaven-piercing Blood King Rot Tan to devour all kinds of spiritual objects and even cultivators' cultivation and turn them into his own energy. Next, at least in the Tao Lord stage, Su Fong no longer had to worry about his cultivation level not being enough. When he broke through the limit of the Tao Lord stage, there would be no more shackles. Bang! Su Fong opened his eyes. Everything he saw was completely different from before. It was not that the scenery outside had changed, but that his cultivation level had changed. Everything he saw had changed. He carefully sensed it. Discovering the extra primordial aura in the Tao Palace, Su Fong was surprised and delighted. He did not expect to cultivate so much primordial aura in the main tower this time. Of course, it was not Slayer's heart that helped him cultivate primordial aura. Instead, it was with the help of the heart that Su Fong came into contact with a realm that he could not have come into contact with before. It pushed his cultivation of the Jiuxuan's Wuji Sutra to a new level, which was why he was able to cultivate so much primordial aura. Slayer's strength was truly astonishing back then. He was killed by Dongxian Daozu many years ago. Only his heart was left, and yet it was able to help me improve so much. Su Fong now realized the strength of the foreign race expert. While he was shocked, he could not help but respect Slayer. He raised his head and looked at Slayer's heart. Su Fong was stunned. At this moment, the beating of the heart was very weak, and its aura was dispirited. If one did not sense it carefully, it was not much different from a heart that had completely lost its vitality. What's going on? In truth, Su Fong vaguely understood what was going on. Slayer's heart could help Su Fong come into contact with the supreme great Tao, but at the same time, it also caused the heart to be greatly exhausted. Now, the heart was obviously overworked. Slayer's heart is a treasure that countless cultivators, and even many peerless experts, use to comprehend the great Tao. Now, that it's like this if I have to pay for it, what should I do? Chapter 2901. Sima Xiaoxiao's first confrontation, Xian Daozu promptly spoke in his mind. There's no need to worry. Everything will return to normal once the heart is sealed for a few million years. However, you'll definitely be unable to use it in a short period of time. Is it really all right? Su Fong heaved a long sigh of relief. Fortunately, I didn't cause any trouble. If Slaughter's heart was so easily destroyed, then wouldn't it have been destroyed a long time ago when so many experts comprehended the Grand Tao in the past and resonated with the Grand Tao on numerous occasions? That's true. Looks like I worried too much. Su Fong was completely at ease, and he felt a wave of regret in his heart as he gazed at Slaughter's heart. Su Fong sighed. What a pity. It'll be difficult for me to rely on Slaughter's heart to comprehend and cultivate in the future. If I'm able to take this heart out of Void Valley and comprehend it at all times, then how shocking would the speed of my advancement in cultivation be? Xian Daozu ridiculed. Dream on. Slaughter's heart is Dongxian Daozu's treasure. The experts of the other divine domains have to pay a sufficient price in order to comprehend it. A tiny Tao Lord like you can only obtain such fortune when you're chosen by the heavens in the Jiuxuan. Yet you actually intend to take it for yourself? Su Fong smiled embarrassedly. He was just thinking about it. How could he possibly obtain Slaughter's heart? The door to the main pagoda finally opened amidst the anxious anticipation of numerous cultivators. A figure strode out with firm and steady footsteps from within the main pagoda. Su Fong actually stayed in the main pagoda for 2,000 years. He clearly only had around 100 void talismans when he entered the main pagoda. How was he able to stay in the main pagoda for so long? Oomph. The Eastern Profound Divine Domain is definitely biased towards this kid. Otherwise, how could he have stayed in the main pagoda for 1,000 years? Numerous participants were discussing amongst themselves. They couldn't figure out why Su Fong was able to stay in the main pagoda for so long. There were even some participants from the Southern Profound Divine region who suspected that the upper echelons of the Eastern Profound Divine region were intentionally favoring Su Fong. Sima Xiao Xiao, Dongxian Hui Wang, and the rest looked at Su Fong in confusion. Of course, they knew that the host of the Jiuquan Blood Valley Finals was a peerless powerhouse from another divine realm. It was almost impossible to ignore the rules and let Su Fong stay in the main tower for another 1,000 years. What surprised them was that the commotion in the main tower made all the contestants lose control of their Dharma bodies, and they worshipped them like subjects who saw their emperor. Could it be that Su Fong obtained a supreme fortune in the main tower, causing all the contestants to lose control of their Dharmakayas? Sima Xiao Xiao and Dongxian Hui Wang were guessing in their hearts, but they could not believe it. Su Fong's divine light swept out. He discovered that there were less than 100 cultivators near the main pagoda. Most of the other participants had been eliminated. In the end, Su Fong's gaze fell on Sima Xiao Xiao, and he shouted coldly, "Sima Xiao Xiao, how dare you be so rude to Miss Sima? Reckless fool! Not only are you not grateful that Miss Sima spared your life, you're even so rude. You're courting death." Some of the Southern Profound Divine Region cultivators beside Sima Xiao Xiao shouted angrily. Sima Xiao Xiao looked at Su Fong, her deep eyes cold. "It looks like you obtained a great fortune in the main tower. That's why you have the courage to challenge me," Su Fong said in a lofty voice. "Before entering the main tower, I said that no one can take away what belongs to Su Fong. The 100 void talismans you took from me were only temporarily placed with you. I'll take them back myself." Sima Xiao Xiao smiled coldly. "Your 100 void talismans are still in my hands. Why don't you dare take them back? Not only will I take back my void talismans, I'll also make you pay a greater price." The moment Su Fong's clanging voice fell, he charged towards Sima Xiao Xiao in large strides. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 3 Southern Profound Divine Region cultivators charged out from behind Sima Xiao Xiao. "Let's see if you're qualified to challenge Miss Sima." These 3 Southern Profound Divine Realm cultivators were all geniuses at the same level as Qiu Changfeng. They all wanted to curry favor with Sima Xiao Xiao, hoping that their best performance would make the beauty look favorably upon them. Therefore, they couldn't wait to make a move, and the moment they made a move, they used the powerful divine abilities they had obtained in Suruo Valley. My master's 10-direction seal. Su Fong didn't dare to be careless in the face of 3 top Southern Profound Divine Region cultivators. He formed a hand seal and used my master's 10-direction seal. In Suruo Valley, it was difficult to use the divine abilities that he had previously mastered. He could only use the divine abilities that he had obtained from the Divine Pagoda. Other than the incomplete saber technique, Su Fong only had the divine ability, my lord's 10-direction seal. My master's 10-direction seal was a peerless divine ability that surpassed the 3 sovereign profound sects' grand taboo art and the Eastern Profound Heavenly Pavilion's yin-yang ultimate art. However, Su Fong hadn't cultivated it for a long time, so he'd only grasped some superficial knowledge of it. This time, Su Fong had advanced into the intermediate Daolord realm after cultivating for 2,000 years in the Divine Tower. Moreover, his cultivation had improved greatly as well, and he'd cultivated the Jiuquan's unbounded scripture to the 4th level. At this moment, the might of my master's 10-direction seal had multiplied. Bang! The terrifying divine might of the 10 directions seal instantly enveloped the 3 Southern Profound Divine Region cultivators, causing their divine abilities to be swiftly suppressed and shattered. Everything about them had been shackled. It was like they'd fallen into a space-time void of time, space, laws, and energy. In an instant, the 3 top Southern Profound Divine Region geniuses had been shackled, and it instantly caused all the participants who witnessed this scene to be shocked. Why is the Heavens Tao so unfair to grant Su Fong such heaven-defying luck and allow him to obtain great fortune repeatedly? Dong Xian Hui Huang noticed that the might of the divine ability Su Fong had executed had skyrocketed, and intense feelings of jealousy surged in his heart. When he saw half of his right arm, intense hatred surged in Dong Xian Hui Huang's heart once more. With a single thought, Su Fong was about to mobilize the divine might of the world to suppress the three southern profound divine region cultivators. Hiss! Hiss! Sima Xiao Xiao struck out over a dozen hand seals in a flash, and they instantly transformed into surging black flames that enveloped Su Fong and the world created by my master's 10-direction seal. The black flames didn't look as menacing as ordinary flames, but the divine might of the flames it emitted was extremely shocking, and it actually burned Su Fong's world to the point of starting to melt. However, Su Fong's divine might didn't collapse as Sima Xiao Xiao had expected. What a formidable and peerless divine ability! Surprise shone in Sima Xiao Xiao's eyes. She flashed out, and black flames surged out of her palm as she slapped out. The black flames actually contained a trace of the power of the heavenly tribulation and a portion of the power of the tribulation fire. When it landed on Su Fong's world, it immediately burned a huge hole in it, and the world began to shatter layer by layer. The three southern profound divine region cultivators who were shackled had finally broken free from their shackles, and they too began to counterattack with their divine arts, shattering Su Fong's world. Su Fong, let me see what ability you have and what qualifications you have to take back your void talisman from my hands and make me pay the price. I've obtained 2 powerful divine abilities in the auxiliary tower, and I've comprehended the Heavens Tao in the main tower. I've also comprehended a top divine ability from my cultivation method, and it's called the Fallen Tao Heart Flame. Sima Xiao Xiao displayed a domineering and heroic spirit that no woman possessed as she looked at Su Fong. Mysterious divine patterns suddenly surfaced in her pupils, transforming into 2 balls of black flames that burned fiercely in her pupils. In an instant, Su Fong felt an illusory flame enveloping his Tao heart, and it began to burn. It was actually trying to incinerate his Tao heart, as expected of a top genius of the southern profound divine region. Sima Xiao Xiao had actually obtained so many divine abilities in the Void Valley, and she had even comprehended a Tao heart attack divine ability. She was truly extraordinary, very extraordinary. Little did she know, Su Fong's 7-colored Vajra Tao heart was currently restricted, and he couldn't use the will visualization technique. However, his Tao heart was as hard as diamond, and no matter how powerful the flames were, it couldn't be incinerated. His body merely swayed for a moment before it returned to normal. Then, he strode out like a cheetah and pounced towards Sima Xiao Xiao. You actually have such an extraordinary Tao heart that you can withstand my fallen Tao heart flame. Sima Xiao Xiao wasn't surprised at all. She was still as calm as ever, and her hands rapidly formed a dazzling array of hand seals. Balls of black flames appeared around her, and they quickly transformed into a world of black flames, enveloping Su Fong within. Primordial energy. Su Fong finally used his strongest trump card, the primordial energy. However, he didn't have any good methods to unleash the full power of the primordial energy, so he could only combine the primordial energy with his physical body to unleash it. A layer of primal chaos aura surged out of Su Fong's body, and it immediately formed a protective divine aura around his body. The primordial energy that Su Fong possessed was no longer a single strand, but a single strand. It could already form a protective barrier around his body. Puff, 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 puff. The black flames rolled over and crashed against the protective divine aura formed by the primordial energy. Not only did they fail to melt Su Fong's protective divine aura, but they were also rapidly absorbed and devoured by the primordial energy. Whoosh! Su Fongda moved like a shooting star, and he almost ignored the burning of the black flames. While Sima Xiao Xiao was still in shock and surprise, he closed in on her. Sima Xiao Xiao, it's time for you to pay the price. Su Fong directly punched out, and his target was Sima Xiao Xiao's chest. Seeing the fury in Sima Xiao Xiao's eyes, Su Fong suddenly realized that Sima Xiao Xiao was a woman. However, it was already impossible for him to withdraw his strength, so he could only withdraw his primordial energy. In the end, his fist was still too late, and it landed on Sima Xiao Xiao's right chest. Boom! A black flame surged out of Sima Xiao Xiao's body, and it collided with Su Fong's fist, resulting in a loud explosion. Su Fong was forced back 3 steps, and his fist was burned by the terrifying black flames, and his flesh was incinerated. Sima Xiao Xiao, on the other hand, was forced back more than 10 steps. The right side of her chest was blasted apart, revealing her snow-white skin. There was blood at the corner of her mouth, and it was obvious that she had suffered serious injuries. Chapter 2902. Su Fong actually defeated Sima Xiao Xiao. Sima Xiao Xiao didn't lose. She was only injured because Su Fong attacked her in a despicable way. What do you mean by despicable way? Is there any place that can't be attacked in a fight between cultivators? Besides, Su Fong obviously restrained his strength in the end. Otherwise, Sima Xiao Xiao's body part would be like Dongxian Hui Huang's right arm. If that's really the case, it's even worse than killing Sima Xiao Xiao. Some of the other contestants scoffed at Su Fong and even reprimanded him. Some Dongxian cultivators, on the other hand, mocked Sima Xiao Xiao. Su Fong, I didn't expect you to be even more despicable than Dongxian Hui Huang. It looks like I didn't see through you before. Sima Xiao Xiao condensed her robe again and covered her exposed skin. She looked at Su Fong with a cold and murderous gaze. Dongxian Hui Huang was enraged when he heard this. What did he mean by being even more despicable than Dongxian Hui Huang? Su Fong smiled awkwardly. You should know that it was just an unintentional act. Forget it, I don't want the 100 void talismans anymore. Consider it my compensation for my unintentional act. Now that Slaughter's heart had lost its function, it would be difficult to continue comprehending anything after entering the main pagoda. It was meaningless to take back the void talismans from Sima Xiao Xiao. Su Fong was generous. After all, he was more or less guilty about what had happened just now. I didn't expect your strength to rise to such an astonishing level after 2,000 years in the main pagoda. However, you humiliated me. How can I let it go so easily? Die. Only your head can appease my anger. Sima Xiao Xiao let out a cold and embarrassed voice. Black flames surged out of her body, and her entire person began to burn. A terrifying aura of tribulation emanated from her, making her look like an incarnation of tribulation fire. Sensing Sima Xiao Xiao's terrifying aura, Su Fong's eyes were solemn. Suddenly, a majestic pressure descended and enveloped the entire Void Valley. Everyone was suppressed until they were trembling. Sima Xiao Xiao's accumulated power for a furious attack also immediately vanished without a trace. What happened? Many contestants were shocked and stunned. Then, the voice of the Jiushuan expert abruptly rang out in Shirua Valley. The 6th round of the finals of the Jiushuan Blood Valley is over. The 6th stage ended just like that. What happened? Didn't you say that the 6th stage has no time limit? All the contestants were astonished. Only Su Fong vaguely understood the reason. Inside the main tower was Slaughter's heart, which had been severely damaged because of him, so he had to seal it to recover. Although one could comprehend powerful divine abilities in the auxiliary tower was also based on the main tower. With the help of the resonance of the heavenly Tao caused by the beating of the heart, one could better comprehend divine abilities. In the main tower, Slaughter's heart was sealed. With the cultivation base of these geniuses, it would be difficult for them to obtain any powerful divine ability in the auxiliary tower. Therefore, it was meaningless for the participants to stay in Su Ruo Valley. If they didn't end it now, when would they? Su Fong, I'll be waiting for you in the 7th stage of the ranking competition. Sima Xiao Xiao stared at Su Fong, her voice filled with a bone-piercing coldness. Of course, Su Fong replied fearlessly. The cultivators of the southern profound divine realm glared at Su Fong angrily, as if they wanted to swallow Su Fong whole. A figure appeared in a flash and looked at Su Fong. His eyes were filled with arrogance and violence as he said, "Human brat, you're amazing. This seat admires Sima Xiaoxiao's beauty and talent, so I chased her all the way here from the southern profound divine region. She didn't even look at me properly, but you human brat took advantage of her. When the 7 stages ranking battle begins, this seat will definitely break that hand of yours." Who was it? Su Fong fixed his eyes on it. It was a tall and mighty contestant. He was clearly a monster expert, but Su Fong didn't recognize him. They had never fought in Su Ruo Valley. Su Fong finally figured out the identity of this monster expert when he heard the discussion of the cultivators of the southern profound divine realm. Unlike the monster race of the Pansong universe, the world of the monster race was divided into countless forces by race. It was somewhat similar to the human cultivation families. This monster expert came from the Rock clan, one of the top 10 clans of the monster race. He was the son of the king of the Rock clan and also the prince of the Rock clan. Su Fong smiled casually at the threat of the Rock clan's prince. He didn't take it to heart. Whoosh, a divine power that distorted space, surged out from around the contestants and enveloped them. Although the contestants were unwilling, they could only let the distorted divine power wrap around them and disappear from the space of Su Ruo Valley. They appeared at the peak of Slaughter Mountain. However, they didn't appear on the square, but on altars that floated in the air above the square. There were more than 1,000 altars in total, and they formed a huge circle above the square at the peak of Slaughter Mountain. On the altars, except for the contestants who had just come out of Su Ruo Valley, all the contestants who had been eliminated were here. A divine light flashed, and then a figure appeared in the center of the circle of altars. It was the Jiushuan expert who presided over the finals of the Jiushuan Blood Valley. The Jiushuan expert said majestically, "I'll give you 100 years to rest. After that, we'll start the 7th test, which is the final ranking battle of the finals of the Blood Valley." The contestants' spirits were instantly refreshed. The previous 6 tests were not so much a selection as they were a type of experience and test. The more than 1,000 contestants who had been selected through the 6 tests had improved greatly in both their cultivation and personal strength. Many of them had even obtained great fortune that they had never had before in Su Ruo Valley. The 7th test was related to fame and fortune, and it was the platform for many geniuses to shine. Gu Qianqi transmitted his soul to Su Fong. "Su Fong, thank you for what happened in Su Ruo Valley. You've actually advanced into the intermediate Downlord realm. You advanced in Su Ruo Valley?" Everyone in Su Ruo Valley was at the lower Downlord realm, so it was difficult to discern anything from their auras. As soon as they left Su Ruo Valley, Gu Qianqi sensed Su Fong's aura at the intermediate Downlord realm, and he couldn't help but be shocked. "You monstrous genius. Even I have to admit defeat." All those years ago, Gu Qianqi had shackled Su Fong with a grand restriction, and Su Fong had been lucky enough to escape. The grand restriction caused Su Fong to be unable to utilize his strength for a very long time, and he was reduced to a mortal. Now only a few years had passed, yet Su Fong had actually advanced into the intermediate Downlord realm. Moreover, it was all thanks to Su Fong that Gu Tianqi hadn't been eliminated by the cultivators of the southern mystery continent and even obtained a formidable divine ability. In terms of strength, Su Fong had already surpassed Gu Tianqi. So how could Gu Tianqi not be shocked? Gu Tianqi said with embarrassment, "You'll definitely be the first in the 7th test this time." Su Fong rubbed the tip of his nose and shook his head. "The first? It's difficult, extremely difficult. Didn't you see those participants from the Southern Mystery Divine region, Sima Xiaoxiao and Dongxian Hui Huang? All of them seemed to wish for nothing more than to pull out my tendons and skin me alive. I'll definitely encounter them during the ranking battles. So how could they possibly let me have an easy time? You took great advantage of Sima Xiaoxiao. So how could she possibly let you off? Took advantage of her? Well, have I ever taken advantage of Sima Xiaoxiao? Hee. You know whether you took advantage of her or not. Gu Qianqi, you're the #1 disciple of the 3 sovereign mysterious sects. So how can you be so wretched? After that, Su Fong entered Xianlang Paradise and utilized the limited time of 100 years to continue consolidating his cultivation at the intermediate Downlord realm, while comprehending the My Master's 10 Direction Seal and the overbearing and peerless saber technique in order to prepare for the ranking battles in the 7th test. When he just participated in the finals of the Bloodhoof Valley, Su Fong's objective was to be ranked in the top 100 of the Eastern Mystery Divine region, and it was even to the extent that he didn't have any extravagant hopes of being ranked in the top 10. During the finals, Su Fong had relied on his own hard work and some luck to improve his strength by more than 10 times when compared to when he just participated in the competition. Su Fong was just like that. He didn't let go of any opportunity, and he only obtained huge gains after repeated adventures. His current goal naturally wouldn't be limited to the top 100 or the top 10, but Dongxuan's number 1. This wasn't just ambition, it was strong confidence that was built on strength. Of course, it wasn't so easy to seize the first place. The ranking battles weren't like the previous 6 tests. One's cultivation wouldn't be suppressed like in the 6th test, and one couldn't help but have Xian Bao. Which one of those geniuses from great powers didn't possess peerless abilities? Which one of them didn't have formidable Xian Bao? Su Fong didn't have to be too afraid of the participants from the Eastern Mystery Divine region. Only Dongxian Hui Huang could pose a threat to Su Fong. It was mainly the cultivators from the Southern Mystery Divine region, especially Sima Xiao Xiao. This woman's strength was astonishing, and Su Fong had no chance of winning against her. On the altar, the other cultivators also began to conserve their energy, preparing for the upcoming ranking battles. Dallas City was once again in an uproar. The entire Eastern Mystery Divine region was paying attention to the upcoming ranking battles. People were making predictions about the final rankings. Sima Xiao Xiao was the undisputed number 1 in everyone's predictions. Even Dongxuan's powerhouses had to admit this ranking. Some even thought that even if Dongxian Lai, Dongxian Xianyang, and Dongxian Qingwei, the 3 Heaven Pavilion disciples, had stayed in Dongxian to participate, Sima Xiao Xiao would still be qualified to compete for the first place. Su Fong was ranked 2nd. However, people didn't have much confidence in Su Fong's 2nd place. After all, the first 6 tests didn't test one's true strength, and Su Fong had more or less used tricks to obtain first place in the first 5 tests. Other than Sima Xiao Xiao, there were also a few top geniuses from the Southern Mystery Divine region among the cultivators from Southern Mystery. There were also experts from the Yao race, especially the prince from the Yao realm's Peng race, whose strength was equally astonishing. As for Dongxian Hui Huang, one of his arms had been crippled by Su Fong in the 6th test. Although his strength wasn't greatly affected, his Dao heart had been damaged, and he had lost his courage. Although the ranking was only a prediction, many Dongxian cultivators and Dongxian magnates were discouraged. Chapter 2903. 100 years passed in the blink of an eye. The final ranking battle of the Jiushuan Blood Valley's Heaven-chosen Blood Valley begins. The majestic voice of the Jiushuan expert was transmitted into the minds of every contestant. All the contestants stood up from their altars, their spirits high and their battle intent high. The ranking battle is divided into 3 rounds. The first round is the battle of the top 100. The second round is the battle of the top 10. The third round is the battle of the top 10. The rules of the first round are as follows. Listen up. Based on the cultivation base of the 1,097 contestants and their previous performance, 100 contestants will be chosen as genius seeds to accept challenges from the other contestants. If a genius seed wins 10 consecutive battles, they will enter the top 100. The other contestants will only have 1 challenge each. If they succeed, they will replace the genius seed. If they fail, they will lose the right to challenge the other geniuses. If no one dares to challenge the top 100 geniuses, resulting in a failure to win 10 consecutive battles, the genius seed will automatically enter the top 100. In the ranking battle, you're not allowed to deliberately kill or use talismans beyond your own abilities. As for other methods, you're not allowed. The Jiushuan expert patiently explained the rules in detail. Of course, such a rule was not absolutely fair. The Jiushuan expert unleashed his divine might and swiftly formed 100 altars, which floated in the inner circle of the contestants' altars. 100 geniuses, take your places. The Jiushuan expert swept out a wave of divine might with a wave of his sleeve. The contestants were moved from the outermost altars to the second circle of altars. Sima Xiaoxiao, Su Feng, Dongxian Hui Wang, Gu Qianqi the Yao youth. About 70% of the 100 geniuses were from the Eastern Profound Divine region. The Southern Profound Divine region had about 20% of the contestants. There were nearly 10 Yao experts, including Geng Ming and the other 2 geniuses from other divine regions. Many of the challengers looked at the 100 geniuses and thought carefully about what to do next. These 100 geniuses were all powerful individuals. If he wanted to choose one of them as his opponent, he would have to put in a lot of effort. After all, everyone only had one chance to challenge. The battle for the top 100 is not too difficult for me. Including the second round's battle for the top 10, it is also not difficult for me. My biggest test is the battle for the top 10. Su Feng's divine light swept out and looked at the geniuses who were about to compete for the top 10 positions. What a coincidence! Su Feng was coincidentally placed on an altar between Dongxian Hui Wang and Sima Xiaoxiao. Sensing Su Feng's gaze, Dongxian Hui Wang spoke in a cold voice. Su Feng, I didn't expect the ranking match to be arranged like this. Consider yourself lucky. Otherwise, you would have met me right off the bat. I would have made it difficult for you to even enter the top 100. Su Feng's gaze swept over Dongxian Hui Huang's remaining arm and mocked. Has your injury healed? Dongxian Hui Huang's eyebrows arched like swords as the veins on his forehead throbbed. His eyes burned with black and white flames. Sima Xiaoxiao glanced coldly at Su Feng. Su Feng felt a chill in his heart. He had thoroughly offended this woman in Shirua Valley. However, Su Feng was fearless. Sima Xiaoxiao was too overbearing. She couldn't blame him. Besides, they would definitely meet in the ranking match. No one would show mercy when the time came. It didn't matter if he offended her. The Jiushuan expert said, "You may challenge the geniuses now." I, Xiang Daokong, challenged Su Feng. As soon as the Jiushuan expert finished speaking, a young man dressed in black leaped onto Su Feng's altar. He was a cultivator from a southern mystic divine realm. His cultivation base was at the intermediate Daolord realm. Such a cultivation base was considered a powerful expert in any of the mystic realms in the Jiushuan divine realm. However, he wasn't considered outstanding among the Jiushuan's chosen ones. Xiang Daokong looked at Su Feng and shouted angrily, "Su Feng, not only did you seize my Shirua talisman in Shirua Valley, you also eliminated me and cut off my chance to obtain a fortuitous encounter. What's more despicable is that you humiliated Miss Sima with such despicable methods. I, Xiang Daokong, know that I'm not your match, but I'll risk my life and fight you for Miss Sima's sake." This person was one of the many Southern Mystic participants eliminated by Su Feng in the 6th trial of Shirua Valley. But he jumped out at this time, clearly to show off in front of Sima Xiaoxiao, and used this to attract Sima Xiaoxiao's attention. It was impossible to move Sima Xiaoxiao's heart. It was enough to gain the beauty's favor. However, Xiang Daokong's flattery had obviously hit the nail on the head. His words caused a layer of frost to appear on Sima Xiaoxiao's face. Shut up. Su Feng had touched Sima Xiaoxiao's private parts in Shirua Valley. Now that Xiang Daokong had said it in public, it was as if he was afraid that others wouldn't know. How could she not be angry? Su Feng smiled embarrassedly. You gave me a victory for free. I really don't know how to thank you. Arrogant fool. Even if I can't defeat you, I'll skin you alive. Xiang Daokong roared furiously. Strands of thought were released and transformed into hundreds of mammoth images. Every mammoth was 300 meters tall. When gathered together, they were like an army of thousands of men and horses. They carried a terrifying aura that could crush the earth as they galloped towards Su Feng. The abilities of the Southern Mystic Divine Region's cultivators are indeed different from those of other divine regions. However, such abilities are nothing in front of me. You don't have a right to skin me alive. Su Fong smiled domineeringly. He didn't use any powerful abilities, but used the will visualization technique instead. The will of massacre erupted like a flood. Under the impact of Su Fong's will of massacre, the will contained in the mammoths formed from thought shattered immediately. The mammoths crumbled, and their terrifying aura vanished without a trace. Boom! The will of massacre struck Xiang Daokong's Dao heart, causing his will to crumble. He screamed and fell off the altar. A divine aura that appeared in time enveloped him and swept him back to the altar where he had been. Just like that, Su Fong easily obtained the first victory. Whether it was the many participants or Dongxian cultivators and magnates in Dallas City, they were all paying attention to Su Fong. Seeing that Su Fong had defeated a southern mystic genius with only the will of massacre, the participants were either shocked or fearful. There were also some who mocked him with disdain. Defeating a genius of the southern mystic divine region with ease with only the power of will. Su Fong's performance in the previous 6 tests was not a fluke, but his true strength. It's Xiang Daokong who overestimated himself and allowed Su Fong to win for free. If he can't even get into the top 100, what right does he have to be a genius seed? Su Fong was just lucky this time. He can't be so lucky all the time. Many cultivators in Dallas City saw Su Fong's victory through the heavenly chosen divine list. The entire city erupted into thunderous cheers, shaking the outer boundary of Dallas City. Although they knew that this victory was nothing to Su Fong, it couldn't stop the eastern mystic divine region's cultivators from exhilaration. In the sky above Slaughter Mountain, on the altars where the other 100 geniuses were, the participants went up to challenge each other. Those who could be chosen as geniuses were naturally the cream of the crop. Other than 3 geniuses who were ranked at the bottom and were challenged off the stage by challengers who were very close to their strength, the rest won easily. The prince of the Peng clan from the Yao realm had an especially shocking performance. He struck out with a claw mark and tore open the stomach of an eastern mystic divine region cultivator who challenged him, almost losing his life. The prince of the Peng clan had displayed the ferocity and savagery of the Yao race. Dongxian Huang Hui Wang was also out of character. He was unusually violent and vicious, using the Tao of Yin and Yang to severely injure the South Mystic cultivator who challenged him, forcing him to withdraw from the ranking match. Su Fong paid special attention to Sima Xiao Xiao. Like Su Fong, Sima Xiao Xiao only used her will to crush her challengers' wills, causing them to fall into a frenzy and lose consciousness on the altars. Su Fong thought to himself, not only does Sima Xiao Xiao possess a strong Tao heart and will, she has also mastered an extremely powerful will visualization technique. In addition to her cultivation base and skills, her strength is definitely higher than Executioner Granny's. This woman will be a formidable opponent for me. The second match, a Yao expert landed on the altar where Su Fong was. The expert transformed into a dark-skinned, muscular man who grinned at Su Fong. "Remember your father's name?" Su Fong said indifferently. "I'm not interested in knowing the name of a loser. Make your move." The Yao expert was enraged. "Arrogant human brat, your father will beat you into minced meat." As soon as he finished speaking, the Yao expert moved like a mountain, punching out with a deafening roar. As he punched out, a 10-foot-wide vortex of demonic wind appeared around his fist, transforming into a giant bear head. It opened its mouth and roared, releasing a shocking suction and tearing force. Some of the weaker participants on the first circle of altars felt their senses being distorted by the terrifying suction and tearing force. They felt like they were about to be swallowed by the bear-head phantom. Su Fong merged his crimson blood avatar with his physical body and punched out again. A sharp, murderous aura and boundless will to massacre surged out with Su Fong's punch like a tidal wave. Under Su Fong's will to massacre, the bear head trembled and crumbled. Boom! Under the crushing will of massacre and the impact of the murderous aura, the bear head crumbled. As for the burly Yao expert, his huge body retreated continuously as blood spurted from his mouth. He was finally thrown out of the altar. One punch. With just one punch, he had defeated a powerful demon expert. Chapter 2904. The geniuses were moved by Su Fang's performance as well. The cultivators and Big Goblin from the southern mystic divine region were especially moved. In their eyes, Su Fang's heaven-defying performance in the sixth trial, his ability to injure Dongxian Huihuang and defeat Sima Xiaoxiao, was due to the environment in Shiruo Valley and the fortune he had obtained in the Divine Tower. Su Fang's own strength was nothing in the eyes of the southern mystic divine region's participants. Su Fang's 2 consecutive victories made the participants from the southern mystic divine region look at Su Fang in a new light. Su Fang, if this is all you've got, I advise you to give up on the battle of the top 100, lest you meet this seat later. I'll make sure you lose miserably then. A voice filled with resentment rang out. Su Fang looked over and realized that it was a slender and handsome young man. His aura was incomparably powerful, and he was at the same height as Dongxian Huihuang. Su Fang immediately knew the young man's identity when he saw that he was missing his right arm. Qiu Changfeng, the top genius from the southern mystic divine region, Qiu Changfeng, had one of his arms destroyed by Su Fang's primordial qi in Shiruo Valley, just like Dongxian Huihuang. He was in an even worse state than Dongxian Huihuang, losing his entire arm from the shoulder down. However, this person's strength was indeed extraordinary, so he was listed as a genius seed. Have your injuries healed as well? Su Fang mocked, his tone the same as when he had mocked Dongxian Huihuang. Qiu Changfeng snorted, "Humph, I'll let you be arrogant for now. Your sharp tongue won't be able to save you when we meet." The second round of challenges was much more intense than the first round. Another 5 geniuses were defeated. The Peng Prince was still ruthless and brutal in this battle, almost crushing the challenger's head with his claw. In the end, he was sternly warned by the Jiushuan experts. Dongxian Huihuang was also ruthless. In less than 5 breaths, he had heavily injured the challenger and knocked him off the altar. He clearly wanted to prove his strength. He wanted to prove that he was the strongest person in the Eastern Profound Divine region. Sima Xiaoxiao still defeated the challenger effortlessly. She didn't use any divine ability at all. Instead, she used her willpower to attack. In an instant, the challenger's willpower collapsed, causing him to lose the ability to continue fighting. Gu Qianqi, Qiu Changfeng, the young man from the monster clan, and the 3 geniuses from the other god realms all performed extraordinarily well. They easily defeated their challengers. The third battle. A figure flew from the outer spell altars to the spell altar where Su Fang was. It was a fair-skinned cultivator who looked like a weak scholar. He exuded a scholarly aura. This person was also from the Eastern Profound Divine Realm, and he was from the Eastern Profound Heavenly Pavilion. He stared at Su Fang, his eyes cold. "My name is Dong Xuanji. I'm sure you still remember my name." "Dong Xinji. I remember. Of course I remember." Su Fang was startled, and then said indifferently, "Of course he remembered this Dong Xuanji. In Suruo Valley, Dong Xuanji had first tried to divert the trouble and then hit Su Fang when he was down. In the end, he was kicked out of Suruo Valley by Su Fang. Who would have thought that he would still dare to challenge Su Fang now? In Suruo Valley, you made me gain nothing. This time, I'll make you pay a heavy price." Dong Xuanji's eyes were cold. Su Fang smiled domineeringly. "I guess I'll have to disappoint you again. This time, you will humiliate yourself just like in Suruo Valley." "Humph, you were in the limelight in Suruo Valley because you were restricted by the rules. The experts couldn't unleash their true strength, so you were able to take advantage of them. You were able to win 2 rounds in a row just now because you were up against weaklings. This time, I'll make you reveal your true colors." Dong Xuanji seemed arrogant and condescending, but in fact, he was extremely sinister. While he was mocking Su Fang, he was quickly gathering his thoughts. Before he finished speaking, a gray xianguang suddenly shot out from between Dong Xuanji's eyebrows. In an instant, it turned into a fog that quickly spread out and shrouded Su Fang. Su Fang's perception of the outside world was instantly cut off by the fog. All he could sense was fog. Qi. A needle-like cold xianguang pierced through the fog, penetrating Su Fang's defense and hitting his Taoist heart. Dong Xuanji's voice was filled with pride. Su Fang, you have been hit by my Xianbao, heart-devouring needle. From now on, your Taoist heart will be eroded by the Xianbao at all times. It will be like an insect biting your heart. Not only will it be extremely painful, but your Taoist heart will also be damaged. It will be difficult for you to progress in cultivation in the future. Is that so? Su Fang sneered disdainfully. Clang. Although Dong Xuanji's heart-devouring needle was insidious and ruthless, Su Fang had the seven-colored Vajra Taoist heart. How could it be so easily devoured? His Taoist heart shook slightly, and the heart-devouring needle was sent flying. Immediately after, the purple fate battle body released a supreme divine power that could control a Dharma treasure. It enveloped the heart-devouring needle and then sealed it in the Taoist palace. Dong Xuanji lost his perception of the heart-devouring needle. He was shocked and surprised. At this moment, Su Fang's cold voice sounded. How dare a despicable person like you succeed against me, Su Fang? A murderous intent surged into the sky, causing Dong Xuanji to feel as if he had fallen into a bloody hell. Immediately after, the intent turned into a blood-red blade that swept across the sky and landed on Dong Xuanji's body. Intent visualization technique. Bloody hell, soul slashing blade. Crack, crack. Although Dong Xuanji's physical body was unharmed, his Taoist heart was almost shattered by Su Fang's bloody hell, soul slashing blade. Su Fang, you actually broke my Taoist heart. How ruthless. Heaven Pavilion will definitely punish you severely. Dong Xuanji cried out in despair and anger. You attacked my Taoist heart with the heart-devouring needle. Why didn't you think of how ruthless you were at that time? Now that I've broken your Taoist heart, it's an eye for an eye. Why would Heaven Pavilion punish me? Su Fang snorted. He released a divine power and swept Dong Xuanji out of the spell altar. Su Fang has won all 3 battles. Su Fang is so ruthless. He actually broke Dong Xuanji's Taoist heart. It's easy to recover from physical injuries, but it's difficult to recover from a broken Taoist heart. That Dong Xuanji is as good as crippled. He's so ruthless even against a Heaven Pavilion disciple. Isn't Su Fang afraid that Heaven Pavilion will pursue this matter? What Su Fang used isn't some divine ability, but a will visualization technique. Not only is his will powerful, he's also mastered the will visualization technique that only Dao Profound Realm experts can use. Strong. Su Fang is too strong. Until now, he hasn't used the supreme divine ability he obtained in Shirua Valley, but he won so easily. His ability is definitely not weaker than Dong Xuanji's. Each of Su Fang's battles would attract the attention of many contestants. Witnessing Su Fang breaking Dong Xuanji's Taoist heart, they were shocked and shocked. Many contestants who were prepared to challenge Su Fang completely dismissed the thought. 3 consecutive battles were enough to prove Su Fang's ability. He was not a pushover. Instead of taking the risk on him, they might as well choose other pushovers. Half a day later, the 3rd battle was finally over, and the 4th battle was about to begin. After 3 battles, the contestants had a rough idea of the strength of the 100 top seeds. They had a rough idea of who was strong and who was weak. When the Zhoushuan experts announced the start of the 4th battle, Sima Xiao, Su Fang, Dong Xuanji Hui Wang, the Prince of the Peng clan, and the other top seeds did not go up to challenge. When the challenges on the other altars were over, the Zhoushuan experts said in a low voice, if no one goes up to challenge, they will automatically be in the top 100. Sima Xiao, this one challenges you. A contestant jumped onto Sima Xiao's altar. This person was a special disciple from the Eastern Xian Divine Domain's Luo Xiao Sword sect. Although he wasn't the best, he was quite extraordinary. However, he was obviously overestimating himself if he wanted to challenge Sima Xiao, who had the highest chance of winning. This one is Luo Xiao Sword sect's Lu Jiansheng. I know that I'm not Miss Sima's opponent, but as long as I can see your face, I'll be satisfied even if I lose to you. The Luo Xiao Sword sect's disciple stared at Sima Xiao, his eyes filled with admiration. Everyone sneered at Lu Jiansheng. The final ranking of the Blood Valley Finals was related to one's future. Many contestants felt ashamed that Lu Jiansheng was treating his future as a joke. Get down. Sima Xiao released her willpower as she did in the previous 3 battles. Black flames invisible to the naked eye enveloped Lu Jiansheng in an instant. However, Lu Jiansheng just stood there motionlessly, looking at Sima Xiao with affectionate eyes. Boom! Sima Xiao's willpower attack incinerated Lu Jiansheng's willpower. He screamed and fainted immediately. Su Fong, this one challenges you. A contestant shouted coldly and jumped on Su Fong's altar. It was a black-robed youth with pale skin, looking as if he had just recovered from a serious illness. This one is Huo Wubing, a wandering cultivator from the Eastern Xian divine domain. The black-robed youth cupped his fists at Su Fong. This one cultivates the great Tao of poison, which is extremely poisonous. Once I use it, even I can't fully control it. At that time, it may hurt you. You'd better admit defeat now. The great Tao of poison? Su Fong was startled, then smiled. What a coincidence. I happen to have poison as well, and I know some detoxification methods. Why don't you and I exchange pointers? You want to exchange pointers with me on the great Tao of poison? The cultivator called Huo Wubing laughed involuntarily. Very well, I won't make things difficult for you. As long as you could detoxify my poison, you win. Huo Wubing suddenly waved his hand. A stream of black venom rolled out and floated 10 feet in front of Su Fong. Unlike ordinary poisons, Huo Wubing's poison didn't have any stench. Instead, it emitted a refreshing fragrance. It wasn't an ordinary poison, but one refined with special methods. Su Fong smiled faintly and secretly transmitted his divine sense to Gui Gui. Gui's power began to seep into Su Fong's body, condensing in his palms and shooting out a poisonous gas. Chi. The poisonous gas released by Su Fong was instantly absorbed by Huo Wubing's black liquid. Huo Wubing smiled confidently. Chapter 29:05. A smile appeared on Huo Wubing's pale face. Su Fong, you do know some poison Tao. Unfortunately, compared to my poison, you're still far from it. The great Tao of poison can kill experts of a higher realm. Back then, I once used the great Tao of poison to kill a supreme realm lord. Su Fong, admit defeat. Losing to me isn't a shameful thing. Is that so? Su Fong chuckled. Poison gas surged out of his palms again, and then Huo Wubing's black poison was sucked into his hands and into his body. Ah, stop. Even I can't get rid of my poison. Huo Wubing turned pale with fright and hurriedly stopped Su Fong. Su Fong doesn't want to live anymore. Almost all the contestants had the same thought. Little did they know, Su Fong had the monster Gui Gui. Gui had fused with the blood-refined divine mastiff. In the 5th stage, she had swallowed the poison of countless cocoon race cultivators, including the supreme expert of the cocoon race who had surpassed the realm of Tao Lord. With Gui's current ability, how could she be afraid of Huo Wubing's poison? Once the poison was sucked into Su Fong's body, Gui swallowed it as a great tonic. Naturally, it couldn't hurt Su Fong at all. Looking at Su Fong, who didn't seem to have any abnormalities, Huo Wubing's eyes went from the initial worry to shock, and finally, disbelief. The mocking laughter in the surroundings gradually subsided, and cries of surprise sounded. Su Fong looked at Huo Wubing and smiled embarrassedly. Your poison is useless against me, so you lose. Huo Wubing was very straightforward and admitted defeat. I, Huo Wubing, cultivate the great Tao of poison and have been treated as a monster. However, I've always kept my word. This time it's my loss. With that, he flew out of the altar and returned to the outer altar where he had been. Just like that, Su Fong easily won the 4th battle. The challengers looked at Su Fong with more fear in their eyes. Su Fong's poison gas could dissolve Huo Wubing's poison, which proved that his poison gas was more powerful. Who wouldn't be afraid of a cultivator with such a powerful poison? The number of contestants prepared to challenge Su Fong decreased by a lot. Su Fong ignored everyone's gazes and stopped paying attention to the other battles. He sat down cross-legged on the altar and closed his eyes to rest. The 5th battle began. No one went to challenge Sima Xiao again. so she was able to enter the top 100 in advance. Su Fong was challenged by a demon expert. That demon expert was the big goblin from the Bai Fong clan in the demon world. The big goblin of the Bai Fong clan was best at fire-type abilities. This demon not only spat out terrifying flames, it also had the bloodline of a god beast, enough to burn a normal sector lord to death. However, Su Fong possessed a supreme divine ability that specialized in restraining fire, lightning, and other extreme yang energies. The Yang transformation profound technique. His divine power seeped into the Bai Fong big goblin's demonic fire and controlled it to burn the big goblin's skin and flesh. In the end, the big goblin had no choice but to admit defeat on the altar. After the fifth battle, Su Fong's strength was not as calm and domineering as Sima Xiaoxiao's, nor was it as cruel as Dong Xuan's or the Prince of the Peng Clan. However, his extraordinary abilities were endless. No matter what kind of challenger he faced, he was able to display a corresponding ability to restrain them. It was an eye-opener for many contestants, and at the same time, they were deeply shocked. Such talent and strength were enough to make many challengers shrink back. No one else challenged Su Fong in the sixth battle, so Su Fong advanced early and entered the top 100 behind Sima Xiaoxiao. In Dallas City, many Eastern Xian cultivators cheered again, shouting Su Fong's name as if Su Fong had already won first place in the finals of Blood Valley. Dongxuan's heavyweights breathed a sigh of relief as well. Su Fong's performance had given them confidence that Eastern Xian wouldn't lose too badly in the finals of Blood Valley, at least. The battle for the top 100 continued. Dongxuan's Hui Wang, the prince of the Peng clan, Gu Qianxi, and other top geniuses had also successfully advanced to the top 100. Of the top 100 geniuses, more than 70 had entered the top 100. More than 20 had been successfully challenged by challengers. Those who succeeded in their challenges didn't mean that they could enter the top 100. They had to win at least 9 matches to enter the top 100. This continued for half a year. Almost all the contestants had challenged the top 100. In the end, there were only 82 people, including Sima Xiaoxiao and Su Fong, who had won all 10 matches. There were still 18 people missing from the top 100. Since no one had won all 10 matches, the spots were temporarily empty. When the top 10 were determined, the remaining 28 spots would be decided from the other contestants. Under the gazes of tens of thousands of people, the battle for the top 10 began. Unlike the battle for the top 100, the battle for the top 10 will be decided by 2 people. The winner will advance, while the loser will be eliminated and have no chance of entering the top 10. The other rules are the same as before. The Jiuquan expert went straight to the point, announcing the rules of the battle for the top 10. Dongxian Hui Huang suddenly spoke up. "Lord, this one has a request." The Jiuquan expert said, "Speak." Dongxian Hui Huang glanced at Su Fong and said, "Since it's Jiuquan's heavenly selection, all the geniuses should give their all and show their strongest abilities. However, the rules forbid them from killing. This will make the contestants feel restrained and affect their performance. Lord, may I ask if this restriction can be lifted? No life and death restrictions?" The Jiuquan expert looked at Su Fong, his eyes gleaming. After thinking for a while, the Jiuquan expert said in a low voice, "The reason the Jiuquan's heavenly selection final has such a rule is to prevent the human geniuses from dying in the heavenly selection. Since you proposed no life and death restrictions, this one doesn't mind as long as the opponent agrees." Dongxian Hui Wang cupped his fists and bowed. "Thank you, Lord." The Jiuquan expert continued, "However, this one has to remind you that if there are any casualties in the battle, you will be responsible for all consequences. The forces behind you are not allowed to use this as an excuse to seek revenge. This one understands. Thank you, Lord, for your help." Dongxian Hui Wang cupped his fists in gratitude. Then he looked at Su Fong, the murderous intent in his eyes surging. "Dongxian Hui Wang, you're courting death." Su Fong snorted inwardly, a sharp aura surging within him. "Begin." The Jiuquan expert used his divine power and condensed another 41 altars, which floated within the second circle of altars. Then he waved his hand and pulled out 82 Xianguang, saying, "Everyone, choose a Xianguang to shatter and choose your first opponent." The 82 geniuses who had made it into the top 100 released their wills and chose a Xianguang to shatter. Just as Su Fong shattered a Xianguang, a twisting divine aura was released from the Xianguang and wrapped around him, transporting him directly to an altar in the third circle. Just as he appeared, another figure appeared on the opposite side of the altar. The other top 100 geniuses also appeared in pairs on the third circle of altars. Su Fong's opponent was a middle-aged man clad in a long gray robe. There was no age limit for this round of Jiushuan's heavenly selection, as long as one's cultivation base did not exceed that of the Taoist master. However, the older one was, the more mediocre one's cultivation talent was. Naturally, one's ability was limited as well. Therefore, there were very few who could enter the finals. The fact that this middle-aged man in gray could make it into the top 100 spoke volumes of his extraordinary ability. This person's previous performance was actually not very dazzling, and each time he won, it was with great difficulty. The middle-aged man in gray cupped his fists at Su Fong and said with a smile, "I am Yin Changhe, an itinerant cultivator from the Eastern Xian Divine Domain. It is my honor to be able to compete with a peerless genius like young Master Su Fong." Su Fong's divine aura swirled around this person's body, and he sensed an evil and bloody aura in this person's aura. A strange power seeped into Su Fong's body along with Su Fong's sensing ability, causing him to feel his blood and qi churn. An indescribable feeling of disgust quickly surged up from his heart. Who would have thought? This middle-aged man in gray was an evil cultivator. This round of Jiushuan's heavenly selection, regardless of one's background or cultivation method, one could sign up for it. It was not too strange for an evil cultivator to appear. However, this middle-aged man in gray was clearly not an ordinary evil cultivator, but an extremely powerful and evil blood cultivator. Su Fong was secretly on guard as he cupped his fists and replied, "Please enlighten me." Unexpectedly, the middle-aged man in gray, called Yin Changhe, did not make a move. He was still smiling as he said, "Young Master Su Fong, the cultivation method I cultivate is a little peculiar. Once I use it, I'm afraid it will hurt young Master Su Fong and even your life. To avoid trouble, why don't you and I do, as Dongshuan's young Master Brilliant said, and fight to the death?" Su Fong's brows raised. Yin Changhe smiled awkwardly. Of course, if young Master Su Fong doesn't dare, then forget it. How could Su Fong not see through this person's provocation? After thinking for a while, he answered decisively, "As you wish. Young Master Su Fong is still straightforward." Yin Changhe grinned, like a bloodthirsty beast that suddenly bared its ferocious fangs, wanting to suck Su Fong's blood dry. Then, Yin Changhe's gaze shifted to Su Fong. In an instant, Su Fong was caught in the attack of Yin Changhe's willpower. What he saw before him was a sea of blood. Then, with a single thought from Yin Changhe, a bloody aura filled with evil soared into the sky, enveloping the entire altar. Splash! 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 Blood gushed out from the void, turning into a boundless sea of blood that rolled towards Su Fong. Su Fong released the will of massacre and used the will visualization technique. At the same time, he used the Crimson Prison Soul Slaying Saber in coordination with the Crimson Blood Avatar. The crimson light flickered rapidly, turning into a blood prison that collided with Yin Changhe's bloody sea and willpower. Swoosh! The shadow of a god of massacre quickly condensed in the world of blood and slashed out, releasing a terrifying blood-red saber light that resembled a river of blood. Wherever the saber light swept out, it split the surging sea of blood and landed on Yin Changhe's body. Will visualization technique. Chapter 2906. Just as Yin Changhe was about to be killed by Su Fong's blood hell soul-slaying blade, a blood-red light suddenly flashed from between his eyebrows. With a whoosh, it turned into a bloody, ferocious ghost face and blocked the blade light. Poof! The blood hell soul-slaying blade landed on the ghost face, and blood splattered everywhere. Sizzle. The blood splattered on the blade light, corroding and swallowing it. It shattered layer by layer until it disappeared completely. The ghost face was cut in half by the blade light. The blood surged for a while before it recovered. It then grinned at In Changha. In Changha obviously had a great taboo when he used the blood-condensed ghost face. He suddenly looked like he was in his 40s. Su Fang, you're good. I admit defeat. In Changha didn't expect him to admit defeat so directly. Su Fang sneered. Admit defeat? Don't forget that you're the one who suggested it. This is a battle of life and death. Su Fang, don't push your luck. If it weren't for the huge losses, why would I admit defeat so easily? If you push me too far, I'll fight to the death. In Changha snorted. Su Fang shouted domineeringly. Then I'll see how you fight to the death. Su Fang, you're courting death. In Changha gritted his teeth and spat out a mouthful of blood essence onto the ghost face. In an instant, In Changha aged by more than 10 years, turning into an old man in his 60s. After the ghost face absorbed In Changha's blood essence, the blood surged, and its aura suddenly became majestic. Then, the ghost face opened its bloody mouth. The blood in its mouth roared wildly, as if a sea of blood was boiling. A majestic suction force instantly shrouded Su Fang. Su Fang's vitality and blood essence surged out of his body and flew into the ghost face's mouth. That's a blood demon that the evil path raised with their own blood essence. It can devour the blood essence of cultivators. Ordinary magical powers can't hurt it, and willpower attacks are useless. Su Fang is in big trouble now. I didn't expect Su Fang to encounter such a powerful opponent in the first battle of the top 10. Su Fang once obtained a peerless great magical power in the Shirua Valley. Perhaps he can get rid of In Changha's blood demon. However, if that's the case, the following battle for the top 10 will be difficult. That's strange. In Changha and Su Fang have no enmity between them. Why did he choose to engage in a life and death battle with Su Fang? Many contestants were discussing Su Fang. They all believed that even if Su Fang won this time, they would have to pay a heavy price. Su Fang's blood chi was devoured by the blood devil, and his aura quickly became sluggish, and his face aged. In Changha laughed complacently. Su Fang, I gave you a chance just now, but you overestimated yourself. Although I've consumed my lifespan, you can't escape death either. Suddenly, Su Fang revealed a domineering smile. He suddenly reached out and waved at the blood devil in the form of Ghost Face. The Ghost Face suddenly collapsed, and wisps of blood chi separated from it and flew towards Su Fang. They fell into Su Fang's palm and then merged with his blood. Su Fang's blood chi quickly recovered, and his aura became majestic at a speed visible to the naked eye. The ghost face looked as if it had encountered a terrifying natural enemy. Its ferocious and terrifying face actually revealed a terrified and fearful expression. What kind of magical power is this? It can actually devour my blood devil? In Changha was shocked and stunned. It turned out that when the blood devil was devouring Su Fang's blood chi, Su Fang had merged the heaven-piercing blood king Vine's blood chi into the blood devil's body. Then, Su Fang activated the heaven-piercing blood king Vine's ability to devour the blood devil. The heaven-piercing blood king Vine was a top-notch life form among the alien races. Although Su Fang's heaven-piercing blood king Vine had not reached adulthood, it had been crazily devouring the life essence of the pupa race's cultivators all these years. It had grown rapidly, and dealing with a blood devil was a piece of cake. In Changha never expected that Su Fang actually had the supreme ability to restrain his blood devil. In his shock and anger, he repeatedly activated the blood devil. However, no matter how hard In Changha tried, he could not stop the blood devil from being devoured by the heaven-piercing blood king Vine. In Changha had no choice but to spit out another mouthful of essence blood. He lost a large amount of his lifespan again, and he looked even older. He had become an old man with one foot in the grave. Let's see how much lifespan you can use. Su Fang's eyes were filled with coldness as he looked at In Changha. Large amounts of blood chi gushed out of his palm and sped up the devouring of the blood devil. Just as the blood devil was about to be completely devoured by the heaven-piercing blood king vine, the blood devil's ghost face suddenly let out a strange and evil roar. It pounced straight at Yin Changhe, seeping into his body and crazily devouring his life essence. Although the blood devil that Yin Changhe raised was incomparably powerful and far surpassed his own strength, it had an extremely fatal flaw. It was very easy for it to lose control and turn on its master. Yin Changhe shouted in despair, "Su Fong, hurry up and stop the blood devil. I have no enmity with you. This is all Qiu Changfeng's doing. He wants to test your true strength." Qiu Changfeng? Su Fong came to a sudden realization. He did not expect Yin Changhe to be under Qiu Changfeng's orders. Qiu Changfeng was one of the top geniuses of the southern profound divine region. Someone like him naturally wouldn't be an idiot. Since he wanted to take revenge on Su Fong, he naturally wanted to understand Su Fong's true strength first before killing Su Fong in one fell swoop. Of course, Yin Changhe obviously didn't just want to test Su Fong's strength. He had obviously received Qiu Changfeng's promise that it would be better if he could kill Su Fong directly. Su Fong looked at Yin Changhe coldly. He waited until the blood devil had sucked Yin Changhe dry before he activated the heaven-piercing blood king vine with all his might. The blood devil roared and struggled madly, but it could not escape the fate of being devoured by the heaven-piercing blood king vine in the end. Witnessing this scene, the surrounding altars fell into a deathly silence. The scene of Su Fong devouring the blood devil was clearly shown to the outside world by the heavenly chosen divine list. Countless Dongxian cultivators in Daoist City were deeply shocked. What kind of evil skill did Su Fong use to actually devour the blood cultivator's blood devil? Dongxuan's powerhouses were also shocked by Su Fong's ability. The supreme elder of spring and autumn snorted, "That's not a skill. According to what I know, he obtained a seed of the heaven-piercing blood king vine in the desolate plains of ancient Blue City. I didn't expect him to cultivate the seed to such an astounding level in just a few tens of thousands of years." Heaven-piercing blood king vine? The powerhouses exclaimed in shock, fear showing in their eyes. Grand Elder Zhongsun of the three highest mysterious sects continued coldly. The heaven-piercing blood king vine is a foreign race's pinnacle life form. It needs to continuously devour life to grow. It's extremely evil. Even the foreign races are afraid of it. Su Fong possesses the heaven-piercing blood king vine. He will definitely become a great threat to the human race in the future. The top disciple of the three highest mysterious sects, Gu Tianqi, was extraordinary in this Jiuxuan's heavenly chosen divine list, but he paled in comparison to Su Fong. Ling Xingqian, whom Grand Elder Zhongsun thought the most highly of, not only did he perform mediocre, he even died mysteriously in Shiruo Valley, humiliating the three highest mysterious sects. In addition, the three highest mysterious sects' executioner Granny had also gone missing without a trace. Grand Elder Zhongsun was in a terrible mood recently, venting all his resentment on Su Fong, taking the opportunity to slander Su Fong. The Luo Shao Sword sect's Grand Elder laughed heartily. The heaven-piercing blood king vine is evil, but it depends on who controls it. Just like the Weaver Spider, he harmed the human race back then and was controlled by the Destiny platform, but he helped the human race resolve the threat of extinction. Su Fong possesses the heaven-piercing blood king vine. He will definitely be the mainstay of the human race in the future. The powerhouses nodded in agreement. In the sky above Slaughter Mountain, Jiuxuan's powerhouses spoke indifferently. Su Fong versus Yin Changhe. Su Fong wins. The contestants seemed to have woken up from a dream. Their gazes towards Su Fong were filled with fear and trepidation. Who would not be afraid of such a terrifying opponent? Dongxian Glory, who had finished the first battle a long time ago, was in high spirits, but after witnessing Su Fong devouring the blood devil, they still felt lingering fear. Sima Xiaoxiao's brows furrowed as she snorted softly. After the first battle of the top 10, only 41 of the 82 geniuses were left. They rested for 3 days. Since there was one more person, two people had to be selected to fight, and one of them would be eliminated. Gung Ming from a northern profound divine realm was fighting against a demon expert from the southern profound divine realm. In the previous 6 rounds, Gung Ming's performance was average. However, in this battle, Gung Ming's performance made everyone look at him in a different light. He used a formation attack that could create a formation with a thought, trapping the demon expert in layers of formations and exhausting his demonic energy. In the end, he had no choice but to admit defeat. Throughout the entire process, Gung Ming was calm and relaxed. This battle made many of the contestants remember Gung Ming's name. The second battle of the top 10 began. Choose your opponent. The Jiuquan experts formed another 20 spell altars and shot out 40 Xianguang. The 40 geniuses attacked the Xianguang and released their divine might to sweep them onto the spell altars. Su Fang's opponent was a young man in his early 20s. He was handsome and wore a luxurious silver robe, but his actions were frivolous and a cold smile hung at the corner of his mouth. When he saw that his opponent was Su Fang, the handsome young man was stunned for a moment before he chuckled. "I didn't expect to meet you. You're giving me a headache, but you deserve to be unlucky to have met me." "It's you?" Su Fang's eyebrows arched. Su Fang had paid attention to the battles of the other cultivators. The handsome young man's performance was very shocking, so Su Fang had a deep impression of him. The young man's performance was shocking not because of his strength, but because he had a lot of treasures. Moreover, his ability to control the Xianguang was also very shocking. In the first battle, the young man used a set of flying swords. He had a total of 108 flying swords and easily crushed his opponent. Chapter 29:07. I don't have any other innate abilities. My most powerful innate ability is the ability to control the Xianbo. I'm a peerless genius born for Xianbo. That's why I don't cultivate any avatar during my usual cultivation. Other than increasing my cultivation, I'm cultivating how to control the Xianbo. Moreover, I'm from the Shao clan, one of the top clans in the Eastern Xian divine realm. I have plenty of treasures. Su Fang, how can you not lose when you fight with me? Young master of many treasures said proudly to Su Fang as he waved his hand and pulled out several swords. The competitors in the outer ring exclaimed in surprise when they saw this. Young master of many treasures had 108 flying swords in total, and they were all peak supreme grade. It was already very rare for an ordinary Taoist lord to have a peak supreme grade Xianbo. However, this young man actually had 108 peak supreme grade flying swords in a set. He was worthy of being called young master of many treasures. The densely packed flying swords formed a vast sword formation around young master of many treasures. Every flying sword was infused with young master of many treasures' thoughts. They released fierce sword intent and formed a terrifying sword world. Young master of many treasures continued. Su Fang, I know you have extremely powerful willpower, but I have more treasures than you can imagine. Besides this sword formation, I also have a Dao Heart Defense Xianbo. Your willpower visualization technique can't do anything to me. Now, you can only be beaten up by me. Haha, I'm giving you a chance to admit defeat. Why don't you admit defeat obediently? Su Fang smiled casually. No matter how many Xianbo you have, no matter how extraordinary it is, it depends on who has it. Although you have a lot of Xianbo and are extremely powerful, it's a pity. They're just a pile of scrap metal. Then I can only use my treasures to bully you. Young master of many treasures laughed proudly. With a thought, he controlled the sword formation to attack Su Fang. In an instant, the entire space where the spell altar was located was enveloped by fierce sword energy. The sword energy crisscrossed and formed a terrifying sword world. On the spell altars outside, the contestants once again let out cries of surprise. In Dallas City, seeing this scene from the Heaven's Chosen Divine list, everyone's hearts were in their throats. Su Fang merged his purple fate battle form with his physical body. Mysterious purple chi swirled around him as he reached out and grabbed at the sword matrix. A burst of divine might erupted. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Young Master Duobao's 108 flying swords trembled and buzzed at the same time. They actually began to lose control. The world of sword intent that enveloped the spiritual altar also began to shatter layer by layer amidst the vibrations of the flying swords. Impossible! What kind of ability is this? Young Master Duobao exclaimed in shock. Then, he opened his mouth and blew out a breath that landed on the sword array. The sword formation became stable again. This person's ability to control the Xian Bao is not ordinary. But to meet my purple fate avatar, you deserve your bad luck. Su Fong smiled domineeringly. His violet fate Dharma body separated from his physical body, and his primordial spirit Dharma body was released as well. The two Dharma bodies flashed out. A purple figure that was hard to see with the naked eye rushed out to meet the sword formation. A burst of purple chi erupted and enveloped the sword formation. The Xian swords buzzed together, and the sword formation shook violently. The primordial spirit Dharma body took the opportunity to attack as well. It released a thought that transformed into an array and exploded within the sword formation. The already unstable sword formation began to collapse. Then, the purple fate avatar grabbed at the air. One of the flying swords struggled, trying to break free. In the end, it was suppressed by the purple fate avatar and sealed within its body. After losing one of the flying swords, the entire sword formation could no longer be maintained. It completely collapsed. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The purple fate avatar once again displayed the supreme divine might of controlling the Xian Bao, sucking all the flying swords into its body. Su Fong, what kind of evil method did you use to actually be able to snatch away this young master's flying sword? Young Master Duobao began to panic. He quickly put away the remaining flying swords. He had no choice. If he didn't put them away, they would all be taken away by Su Fong. You have a lot of Xian Bao. Actually, I have a lot of Xian Bao as well. It's just that the quality isn't as high as yours, Su Fong chuckled. Suddenly, he pulled out several flying swords. Although they were only mid-grade flying swords and weren't a set like young Master Duobao's, the number was astonishing. There were more than 1,000 of them. More than 1,000 flying swords circled around Su Fong's purple fate avatar like a river of flying swords. It was truly a shocking sight. In fact, in terms of power, Su Fong's purple fate avatar was far inferior to young Master Duobao's sword formation of 108 flying swords. However, Su Fong's ability to control 1,000 flying swords at the same time was too shocking. It was a visual shock to everyone. No Dao Lord could control so many Xian Bao at once. So many flying swords would instantly drain a cultivator's dermic power and primordial spirit, let alone control them to attack a powerful enemy. However, Su Fong relied entirely on his purple fate avatar to control these flying swords. Naturally, it was very easy for him. Young Master Duobao stared at Su Fong, dumbfounded. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Compared to Su Fong, his ability to control the Xian Bao was nothing. How could he not be shocked? Su Fong looked at young Master Duobao with a domineering smile. I wonder if your Xian Bao could defend against my Xian Bao. Young Master Duobao licked his dry lips and exclaimed, Monster! Su Fong, you're a monster. I don't want to play with you anymore. I admit defeat. I admit defeat. Su Fong put away his primordial spirit avatar and purple fate avatar. At the same time, he put away all the mid-grade flying swords. Just like that, Su Fong easily won another round and advanced to the top 20. After young Master Duobao admitted defeat, he refused to leave the stage. He looked at Su Fong with a pitiful expression. Su Fong, those flying swords are my lifeblood. Without one, the entire set of flying swords will be useless, Su Fong smiled faintly. He grabbed a dozen flying swords and swept them towards young Master Duobao. Young Master Duobao was surprised and delighted. He put away his flying swords, cupped his fists at Su Fong, and flew out of the spell altar. Su Fong has displayed all sorts of extraordinary abilities. Unless it's a powerhouse with peerless divine abilities who can suppress him with absolute power, who else can compete with him? With so many extraordinary abilities, he's definitely going to enter the top 10. Top 10? Until now, Su Fong hasn't used the powerful divine abilities he obtained in Suruo Valley. The strength he's shown is only the tip of the iceberg. He's definitely qualified to compete with Sima Xiao Xiao for first place. Su Fong's ability was far from what it is now before the finals of Blood Valley. Su Fong has obtained amazing opportunities in the first 6 rounds. He'll definitely rise up against the heavens this time. Even if he can't take first place, he'll definitely surpass Dongxian Huangguang. I used to think that Dongxian Huangguang was a peerless genius. Now, it seems like he's just SOSO. He's so much weaker than Sima Xiao Xiao and even Su Fong. All the contestants who did not enter the top 100 were paying attention to Su Fong. Some were surprised by Su Fong's extraordinary ability, some were jealous, and some were comparing him to Sima Xiao Xiao and Dongxian Huangguang. Dongxian Huangguang was fighting with a genius from southern Xian Divine region. His ability was far superior to his opponents, so he could still pay attention to Su Fong as he fought. Seeing Su Fong win so easily and hearing the other contestants' discussions, Dongxian Huangguang's gaze turned sharper as his attacks became more ruthless. In the end, he almost killed his opponent and was sternly warned by the Jiushuan expert who was hosting the finals. After the second battle, only 20 geniuses remained on the innermost circle of altars. The top 10 of Jiushuan's chosen Eastern Xian Divine region would be born from these 20 people. These 20 people were the top geniuses of Dongxian and South Xian, true experts. Naturally, they became the center of attention. After 3 days of rest, the battle for the top 10 finally began. The experts of Jiushuan took action and built another 10 enormous altars at the center of the circle of altars. Those who would remain on these altars would naturally be the top 10 of the finals. Among the cultivators who had entered the top 20, other than Sima Xiao Xiao, who still maintained her cold and calm demeanor, the others looked at the 10 altars with burning eyes that flickered with intense battle intent and determination. Because it was a battle for the top 10, each battle was held separately. The first battle was drawn on the spot. Eastern Xian Divine Region's Luo Xiao Sword Sects, Shu Chongxiao versus Southern Xian Divine Region's Myriad Spirits Sects top genius, Sage Liu. Luo Xiao Sword Sect was also one of the top forces of Eastern Xian Divine Region, on par with the 3 supreme profound sects. Luo Xiao Sword Sect's #1 disciple had been killed by the heaven-piercing Blood King, Vine's mother body, in ancient Azure City. Shu Chongxiao's strength was not small compared to the #1 disciple, but his strength was also quite extraordinary, and he had the strength to enter the top 10. The Myriad Spirits Sect's Li Yu's attack style was extremely unique, transforming into 10,000 beasts that roared and galloped, and engaged in a fierce battle with Shu Chongxiao. The battle between the two was earth-shattering, and it was soul-stirring. In the end, Shu Chongxiao defeated Li Yu with his powerful sword skills, but he was also heavily injured. It could be said that it was a Pyrrhic victory. The second battle was between Gu Tianqi and a genius from another divine region. Since this genius dared to come to Eastern Xian Divine Region from another divine region, his strength was naturally extraordinary. Although he was not as strong as Yi Feishuan and Li Sheng, he was still very strong. Gu Tianqi was also unlucky. With his strength, not only could he enter the top 10, he could also get a very high ranking. But in the end, he encountered such a powerful genius. And in the end, Gu Tianqi had no choice but to use the Eastern Xian Divine Region's top divine ability, the Great Taboo Art, to defeat the genius from another divine region. Su Fong thought, the more powerful a divine ability is, the more restrictions it has. Gu Tianqi was forced to use the Great Taboo Art before entering the top 10, so he will definitely be greatly affected. After entering the top 10, it will be very difficult for him to get a high ranking. Su Fong drew the third battle. What a coincidence! His opponent was Qiu Chongfeng. The two appeared on the same altar at the same time. Chapter 2908. Su Fong never expected that Qiu Chongfeng, who wanted to kill him, would reject him decisively. A battle of life and death? I'm not interested. Su Fong's eyes narrowed. Are you afraid? After witnessing Su Fong's strength, Qiu Changfeng finally realized that Su Fang's current strength was far beyond his expectations. How could he not be afraid of Su Fang? Qiu Changfeng snorted coldly. "Umph. Revenge is a dish best served cold. Even if I lose to you, I still have a chance to win it back in the future. I'm not a fool. Why would I give you a chance to kill me?" Su Fang revealed a disdainful look. "A useless person who bullies the weak and fears the strong. You don't even have the courage to fight to the death. How can you be called a cultivator with such willpower? Your future achievements will be extremely limited." "Oomph. This is called being flexible. You have to defeat me first before you judge me. Make your move." Qiu Changfeng shouted coldly. A pair of wings suddenly extended from his back. They were not illusory wings of light. They were real wings formed by the power of his physical body. "I heard that many cultivators in the southern profound divine region fuse their bodies at the perfection stage with the blood essence of divine beasts and demons to complement their techniques and abilities. As a result, they can unleash the innate abilities of divine beasts and demons. Qiu Changfeng has obviously cultivated this type of physical body ability." Su Fang stared at Qiu Changfeng with a serious look in his eyes. Although he was disdainful of Qiu Changfeng's actions and was confident that he could crush him, he would not let his guard down. There was no absolute weakling in a battle between cultivators. The slightest carelessness would lead to a crushing defeat and a cripple. This was the experience that Su Fang had summed up from the Pansong universe. Whoosh, Qiu Changfeng flapped his wings. His figure flashed and disappeared into the void like a gust of wind. An invisibility ability? Su Fang projected his senses at the perfection stage, but he could not sense Qiu Changfeng's aura at all. In the blink of an eye, from the void behind Su Fang, more than a dozen sharp wind blades whizzed out, cutting cracks in the space. It was truly terrifying. Qiu Changfeng unleashed his innate ability. Not only did he conceal himself, but he also possessed the ability to teleport through space. As expected of one of the top geniuses of the southern profound divine region, he possessed extraordinary abilities. Su Fang was caught off guard. In terms of speed, he was no match for Qiu Changfeng. He had no choice but to defend himself. Blood armor quickly formed around his body. Chi! Chi! The wind blades collided with the blood armor, creating dazzling Xianguang sparks. It was truly gorgeous. The blood armor, which had astonishing defensive capabilities, shattered the wind blades. However, there were more than a dozen deep cuts on the blood armor. Su Fang, this is just the appetizer. The main course is waiting for you. Qiu Changfeng's complacent laughter came from all directions. Suddenly, Su Fang, in the state of the blood evil Dharma body, released a sword chi that contained the will of slaughter and shot it more than 100 feet to the right. An illusory figure flashed. It was Qiu Changfeng, who had concealed himself. Chi! Chi! Su Fang grabbed more than a dozen sword chi and shot it at the invisible Qiu Changfeng. Qiu Changfeng continuously teleported before disappearing into the void. However, every time Su Fang's sword chi hit him, he had no choice but to reveal himself and escape from the void. You can actually see through my concealment ability? Qiu Changfeng looked at Su Fang in disbelief. Su Fang mocked. The ability you think is extraordinary is just a small trick in front of me. As for you, Qiu Changfeng, you are just a clown in my eyes. Qiu Changfeng's concealment ability was indeed very powerful, but it was still inferior to the one-leaf concealment talisman of the Yi clan. Su Fang's life-shrinking technique sensed the aura of fate. Even the one-leaf concealment talisman could not escape Su Fang's senses, let alone Qiu Changfeng's concealment ability. Unless he could conceal his own aura of fate. Su Fang sneered and said, "Show me your true strength. Jumping up and down like a clown will only make me laugh." Arrogant. I have fused with the blood essence of the hurricane god-winged eagle since I was young. I have the innate ability of a divine bird. Besides concealment, I also have a speed that is beyond your imagination. Next, I will show you my unparalleled speed that surpasses the shackles of space, the chaotic thousand illusions concealment technique. Qiu Changfeng flapped his wings with all his might, stirring up a gust of wind. With a flash, he entered the void with a swoosh. In an instant, he appeared less than 100 feet away from Su Fang. Su Fang had just condensed a thought to attack when Qiu Changfeng's figure flashed again and disappeared into the void. When he appeared again, he was already on the right side of Su Fang. Not only was his speed unbelievably fast, but there was also no pattern to his movements. He was completely unrestrained by space. Swoosh! Swoosh! In the blink of an eye, Qiu Changfeng teleported more than 10 times, leaving behind afterimages. The entire space became chaotic, and Su Fang was trapped in a chaotic world. He had actually used a supreme movement technique to mess up space and interfere with Su Fang's senses. He shackled Su Fang and then launched a fatal attack. Su Fang's eyes flashed with the light of deduction. Heavenly prying eye. Then he grabbed a beam of slaughter sword chi and shot it out. Poof! Qiu Changfeng was hit by the sword chi as soon as he appeared. It did not feel like the sword chi had hit him. Instead, it felt like he had sent himself to it. Qiu Changfeng was like a big bird that had been shot by a sharp arrow. He flipped a few times before stabilizing himself. Fortunately, only his physical defense was broken by the sword chi. He was not seriously injured. This time is a fluke. It must be a fluke. Qiu Changfeng gritted his teeth. His figure flashed, and he attacked again. Whoosh! Whoosh! Fluke. These 3 times were all fluke. No one can break my chaotic illusions escape technique. 3 more bloody holes appeared on Qiu Changfeng's body. His eyes were filled with pain and dissatisfaction. After gritting his teeth, he charged towards Su Fang again. This time, his speed was even faster. Whoosh! 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 After more than 10 times, Qiu Changfeng had more than 10 bloody holes on his body. The sharp and cold slaughter chi seeped into his body, causing him to feel cold all over. His Dao heart was also affected and could not help but tremble. His heart was filled with shock as he looked at Su Fang with eyes full of disbelief. At this time, Qiu Changfeng obviously did not think that Su Fang had gotten lucky. Many of the competitors were dumbfounded when they saw this scene. They could not understand how Qiu Changfeng's powerful talent was so weak in front of Su Fang. Su Fang sneered and said, "I said earlier that your insignificant skills are completely useless in front of me, Su Fang. Put away your clown-like tricks. If you don't bring out your strongest strength, I'm afraid that you won't have any chance later." Many of the competitors' laughter came from the surrounding altars. Qiu Changfeng's action earlier was indeed like a clown. Although he put in all his effort to perform, what he gained was only the laughter of others. Qiu Changfeng's Dao heart became pale due to the impact of the slaughter chi. When he heard Su Fang's ridicule and everyone's mocking, his face instantly turned red. At this time, he was already somewhat regretful. He would rather have a fight to the death with Su Fang than suffer such ridicule and humiliation. Su Fang, you forced this seat to do this. This seat obtained a supreme divine ability in Void Valley. Coupled with the peerless cultivation method and innate ability that this seat cultivates, executing this divine ability is sufficient to kill the limits of Dao Profound Realm. I originally planned to leave it for the top 10 ranking battle. Now, I'll let you experience the power of my supreme divine ability first. Even if I can't kill you, I'll still severely injure you. Annihilation Storm. Qiu Changfeng gnashed his teeth. When had he ever suffered such humiliation in the southern profound divine region? His face started to distort, turning into an eagle's face. A fierce and violent aura that only Big Goblin had spread out. A sharp whistling sound circled and whistled around him, as if a world-destroying storm was brewing. Whoosh, the wings behind Qiu Changfeng danced wildly, setting off a monstrous storm. Immediately after, his entire person rapidly turned into nothingness. In the end, he turned into a tornado that soared into the sky. It whistled and spun, engulfing the space of the altars. Su Fang was caught in the storm. His figure danced wildly with the wind uncontrollably. His physical body, Dao Palace, and even his soul were about to be torn into pieces by the storm. At the same time, dense and sharp wind blades continuously cut his body. His defenses started to shatter layer by layer. Blood prison, soul, slashing blade. Su Fong stabilized his Dao heart and used the willpower visualization technique. At the same time, he also activated the Blood Fiend avatar. Blood light soared into the sky, condensing into a world of blood light in the surroundings in an instant. A lifelike, blood-robed Su Fong descended from the world of blood light like a god of death. Then he slashed out with his blade. Chi! The surrounding world of violent winds started to shatter layer by layer as the river-like blood-red blade light swept across. Stop! I admit defeat. Chiao Changfeng's voice came from the chaotic storm. Su Fong turned a deaf ear to it. He released a thought that turned into a resplendent blade light and exploded. Different from the blood prison, soul, slashing blade, this blade was domineering and incomparably sharp. It could destroy everything. It was unstoppable and invincible. The surrounding storm was forcefully shattered by this blade. Very quickly, it became calm. Ah! Chiao Changfeng screamed in agony. He appeared from the calm storm and staggered. His left arm had been chopped off. He was now an armless person. Then, he opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood mixed with ice shards. His face was as pale as a sheet of paper. He looked at Su Fong with shock and fear in his eyes. Su Fong's Blood Fiend avatar was originally the most powerful avatar. In addition, he had mastered the willpower visualization technique. Not only did this blade severely injure Chiao Changfeng, but also hurt his Dao heart. The second blade was the blade technique that Su Fong had obtained in Suruoa Valley. Although it was incomplete, its power was extremely domineering. Su Fong, why didn't you use your most powerful finger? Chiao Changfeng stared at Su Fong. His eyes were filled with unwillingness and despair. You're not qualified. Su Fong's contemptuous tone was like a sharp blade that stabbed Chiao Changfeng's heart. Chapter 2909. Su Fong then mercilessly stabbed Chiao Changfeng's Dao heart. Besides, that finger wasn't my most powerful move. With your strength, you don't deserve to see my most powerful attack. Crack! A sound that couldn't be heard by the ear came from Chiao Changfeng's heart. Chiao Changfeng screamed in agony and fainted on the ground. His Dao heart had been severely injured by the blood prison, soul-slaying saber, and now it was completely shattered. Su Fong versus Chiao Changfeng. Su Fong wins. The Jiushuan expert announced loudly, and then used his divine might to sweep Chiao Changfeng out of the altar and out of the Blood Valley. Chiao Changfeng's Dao heart was shattered and he was heavily injured. He had completely lost the ability to fight and couldn't continue the fight. He could only be sent away. Sima Xiaoxiao's cold voice sounded. Su Fong, you don't have any enmity with Chiao Changfeng. He had already admitted defeat, but you still attacked him mercilessly, severely injuring him and shattering his Dao heart. We're both humans. Why are you so cruel? Su Fong smiled coldly. Why didn't you say you were cruel when you ordered the Dongxian cultivators to use the Shulua talisman in the Shulua Valley? Previously, Chiao Changfeng instigated Yin Changhe to deal with me using evil means to kill me. Why didn't you say that he was ruthless then? Chiao Changfeng is a cultivator of the southern mystic divine region. You destroyed his arm and shattered his Dao heart, which is equivalent to cutting off his cultivation. Since I've encountered this, I won't sit idly by. If you meet me in the top 10 ranking matches, I won't let you go. When the time comes, I'll fight with all my strength. Su Fong smiled awkwardly and sat down cross-legged on the altar. The next 7 matches for the top 10 lasted for 3 days. The top 10 of the Jiushuan's heavens, chosen ones, were finally born. Shu Chongxiao of the Luo Shao Sword Sect, Gu Tianqi of the 3 highest profound sects, Su Fong, Dongxian Hui Wang, and Eastern Profound Divine Realm cultivators had only taken 4 spots in the top 10 of Blood Valley. Such a result made all the cultivators from the Eastern Profound Divine Realm feel humiliated. Sima Xiaoxiao, the young man from the demon race, the prince of the Peng race, Gung Ming, another genius from another divine realm, and the genius from the southern Profound Divine Realm, Fushinai. The participants from the other divine realms were mainly the geniuses of the southern profound divine realm and the experts of the demon race. It wasn't that the cultivators of the eastern profound divine region were weak, but that the cultivators of the southern profound divine region and the big goblin were too strong. The cultivators of the eastern profound divine realm placed their only hope on Su Fong. Only if the first place fell into the hands of a cultivator from the eastern profound divine realm would they be able to regain some face. The divine light of the Jiushuan expert swept over the 10 powerful geniuses. He nodded and said, "I will give you 1,000 years to leave the Blood Valley to rest and recover. After 1,000 years, the top 10 ranking battle will take place. Every 2 of you will have to face each other in the top 10. When the time comes, there will be fierce battles. Go." As the Jiushuan expert nodded, he waved his hand and swept Su Fong and the other geniuses out of the Blood Valley. The battle in the sky above Slaughter Mountain was still ongoing. The remaining 1,000 or so people would fight for the empty spots in the top 100. Originally, there were only 28 spots, but during the battle for the top 10, 5 of them had either died or been seriously injured, leaving 33 spots empty. After the top 100 was determined, the ranking battle would take place. It wouldn't be short, so Su Fong and the other geniuses would have time to rest and recuperate. Although the battle in the sky above Slaughter Mountain was still intense, it didn't attract as much attention as the previous battle for the top 10. Even more people were paying attention to the top 10 ranking battles 1,000 years later. As soon as Su Fong appeared in Dallas City, the leader of the Dallas faction immediately flew over and cupped his fists at Su Fong. He said politely, "Supreme Elder Spring Autumn, Great Elder Chang's son, Great Elder Luo Shao Sword Sect, and other lord from various forces of the Eastern Profound Divine Realm have specially set up a banquet to congratulate the top 10 geniuses of Jiushuan. Young Master Su Fong, please attend the banquet. Please tell the lords that I've been in a series of fierce battles. Not only did I expend a lot of energy, I'm also heavily injured. The top 10 ranking battle is imminent, and I need to focus on preparing for it. I can't attend the banquet. Farewell." Su Fong politely declined and then headed straight out of Dallas City. He was in a hurry to return to Fangtian City. How could he have the time to feign civility with Supreme Elder Spring Autumn and the rest? He didn't even give face to a big shot like Supreme Elder Spring Autumn. Impressive and domineering. Only Su Fong can be so domineering in the entire Eastern Profound Divine Realm. The leader of the Dallas faction shook his head with a wry smile and returned to report to Supreme Elder Spring Autumn and the rest. Supreme Elder Spring Autumn had set up a banquet in the City Lord's residence to rope in the top 10 geniuses of Dongxian, mainly Su Fong. Even if he couldn't rope him in, at least he had to find a way to eliminate the resentment in his heart. Other than Supreme Elder Spring Autumn, Dongshuan's powerhouses had all shown up, making Gu Qianqi, Shu Chongxiao, and the rest who came to the banquet feel flattered. Even Dongshuan's glory was extremely humble. Only Su Fong was missing. Hearing the leader of the Dallas faction's report, a shadow flashed in Supreme Elder Spring Autumn's eyes. He then smiled and praised. The younger generation should be like Su Fong, neither servile nor overbearing, cultivating wholeheartedly. Only then can they achieve extraordinary results. Grand Elder Chang's son of the 3 Supremes' mysterious sex snorted coldly, arrogant and conceited. Grand Elder Luo Shao smiled and said, "Cultivators should not covet glory, splendor, wealth, and position, and should not fawn over the strong. This Su Fong, I like this kind of junior brat." Dongshuan's glory's face darkened. Gu Qianqi and Shu Chongxiao chuckled bitterly as well. The Grand Elder of the Luo Shao Sword Sect was frank and outspoken. If Su Fong didn't covet glory and wealth and didn't flatter the powerful, then what were they? Su Fong executed the burning light escape art, pushing this skill to its limits as he sped away like a burning flame. Fangtian City was in sight. Looking over, Su Fong raised his eyebrows. Why are there so many people coming to Fangtian City? Is there someone as blind as the unscrupulous old devil who dares to find trouble with Fangtian City? Outside Fangtian City, countless cultivators came riding on their swords. There were also many flying xianbao and moving abodes. It looked very lively. Observing with his extraordinary vision, Su Fang realized that these cultivators who came to Fangtian City were all well-behaved. There was no conflict. Obviously, they weren't here to attack Fangtian City. Su Fang arrived outside Fangtian City in a flash. After forming a seal, the barrier automatically parted to form a passage, allowing Su Fang to pass through the formation. Su Fang, the cultivator who entered Fangtian City, just now looks like Su Fang. Su Fang? Su Fang has returned to Fangtian City. We've made the right choice this time. We might be able to see Su Fang. That's a great opportunity. A sharp-eyed cultivator recognized Su Fang, causing a huge commotion outside the city. Su Fang came to the palace in the depths of Fangtian City. Xuanxin, Luo, Wei Dao, Sang Qiu, Xiao Wanting, Qin Heng, Hua, Tianu, Gao Tianlei, and the others were already waiting outside the palace. Congratulations, Master, for becoming one of the Eastern Xian Divine Domain's top 10 geniuses. Qin Heng and his subordinates came forward to greet him. Their gazes towards Su Fang were filled with reverence, excitement, and fanaticism. Su Fang, you've really defied the heavens. From now on, we, the slaves who were abandoned by the heavens from low-level universes, can hold our heads high in the Eastern Xian Divine Domain. Who would dare to bully us? Hua Tianu praised loudly. Gao Tianlei was also very excited. Su Fang was also very happy. When he first came to Dongxian, he was still a false god in the eyes of the Jiushuan Divine Domain cultivators. He had been reduced to a slave, bullied, and even hunted down. In a short period of time, he had risen to become the top genius of the Eastern Xian Divine Domain. Whether it was in terms of strength or status, he was on equal footing with the powerhouses of the Eastern Xian Divine Domain. How could Su Fang not be happy with such an impressive achievement? With strength and status, not only Su Fang, but his family, friends, subordinates, and the many cultivators and Big Goblin from the Pansong universe in the Heavenly Tao Dharma body would also have the ability to survive in the Jiushuan Divine Domain from now on. They entered the palace. Su Fang took out the purple J Divine Marrow and gave half of it to Xuanxin. The purple J Divine Marrow was formed through countless years of refinement by the top expert of the chrysalis race, with his own aura and various spiritual items. Su Fang had killed the strongest expert of the chrysalis race in the 5th stage and obtained this supreme treasure from his storage ring. It was of great use to Xuanxin and Goddess Luo. Xuanxin was surprised and delighted when he heard that the purple J Divine Marrow could restore his looks. Then, Su Fang took out the Divine Phoenix blood essence he had obtained in the 1st stage and gave a third to Xuanxin to cultivate. He divided the rest into 2 portions and gave one each to Qingyu and Bailing. With these supreme treasures, Xuanxin, Qingyu, and Bailing's strength would undergo a great transformation. Qin Heng, find me an artificer. The best kind, of course. Su Fang then transmitted his thoughts to Qin Heng. Su Fang had also obtained a pile of crafting materials in the shape of bee wings in the storage ring of the supreme powerhouse of the chrysalis race. Su Fang intended to use them to refine a flight-type mystic artifact. It just so happens that the Divine Cauldron Palace, the most famous artificer sect in the Eastern Profound Divine region, has sent an elder to visit you. Master can give the materials to the Divine Cauldron Palace. They will definitely be able to refine an extraordinary Xian Bao. That would be great. However, time is tight. It would be best if it could be refined within 1,000 years. 1,000 years is a bit of a rush. I will go find the Divine Cauldron Palace right now. The Divine Cauldron Palace had sent an elder to Square Sky City to befriend and express their goodwill to Su Fang. However, Su Fang announced that he was in seclusion the moment he returned to Square Sky City. The Divine Cauldron Palace elder was greatly disappointed, but he still stayed in Square Sky City. When Su Fang asked the Divine Cauldron Palace to refine in Xian Bao, the Divine Cauldron Palace elder was pleasantly surprised and naturally agreed. Therefore, Su Fong handed the pair of wings to the divine Cauldron Palace elder. At the same time, he took out the true Yang evil vanquishing sword and asked the divine Cauldron Palace to help improve its quality. Chapter 29:10. While Su Fong was cultivating in seclusion, there was an endless stream of powerhouses from various forces that came to visit Square Heaven City. There were also many wandering cultivators and forces from heaven-forsaken desolate region who came to seek refuge in Square Sky City. Square Sky City became very lively. However, Su Fong's seclusion made many people leave disappointed. On this day, Su Fong flew out of Xianlang Grotto Heaven and walked out from the depths of the palace to the main hall. Someone who could force Su Fong to stop his seclusion and come to meet was naturally someone he had to meet. Of course, it was not a big shot, but the Chun clan from the Mirror Moon Profound World. The Mirror Moon Profound World was a profound world force in the Eastern Profound Divine region, but it was not a top force. Su Fong came to meet because this Chun clan was the family of Dong Xinzheng and Dong Xinrong. Su Fong and Dong Xinrong had a promise of more than 1,000,000 years. When he fought with Dong Xinzheng, regardless of the outcome, he would hand over Su Fong's grandfather's soul. However, things were different now. With Su Fong's current strength and status, he did not need to worry about Dong Xinzheng and Dong Xinrong's identities. He planned to save his grandfather's soul as soon as possible. Greetings, young master Su Fong. There were 2 guests from the Qin clan. When they saw Su Fong, a scholarly old man hurriedly cupped his fists and bowed to Su Fong in fear and trepidation. The other white-haired old man with snow-white hair and a thin face hurriedly stood up when he saw Su Fong. However, he did not appear as frightened as the scholarly old man. You are the Chun clan's patriarch? Su Fong looked at the scholarly old man and asked. The scholarly old man hurriedly replied, I am the Chun clan's patriarch. My disciples Dong Xinrong and Dong Xinzheng have rudely offended young master Su Fong. I have come to apologize to Su Fong. Su Fong asked, where is Dong Xinrong? Dong Xinzheng was participating in the finals of the Blood Valley and was still inside the Blood Valley. Dong Xinrong, on the other hand, was not participating in the finals. The Qin clan leader replied, Dong Xinrong followed Lord Hong Daoyuan to the Heavenly Fate stage and became a core disciple. I see. Su Fong was stunned. He didn't expect Dong Xinrong to be able to enter the Heaven's Fate stage. This is... Su Fong looked at the white-haired elder. The Chun clan leader said, This is Medicine God Dao's elder, Master Apothecary Chu. Medicine God Path? Su Fong had heard of the Medicine God Dao before. It was the strongest alchemy sect in the Eastern Profound Divine Realm, and it was as famous as the Divine Cauldron Palace. What Su Fong found strange was why the Chun clan leader had brought people from the Medicine God Dao here. He was just about to ask the Chun clan leader about his grandfather's soul. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Inside Su Fong's Jioshuan Dao Palace, the mysterious Dao runes from the Heavenly Fate Life shrinking technique suddenly flickered. Su Fong was shocked and stunned. He hurriedly used the Heavenly Fate Life shrinking technique to sense Master Apothecary Chu's fate aura. He discovered that there was a faintly discernible fate aura on Master Apothecary Chu's body. It was this fate aura that caused the Dao runes of fate to react. However, the fate aura was extremely weak and faintly discernible. If Su Fong's cultivation hadn't increased and his mastery of the Heavenly Fate Life shrinking technique hadn't reached a higher level, he wouldn't have been able to sense anything. Could it be that this Master Apothecary Chu has some sort of fate connection with me? Su Fong was puzzled. The Qin clan leader said embarrassedly, I originally wanted to bring Dong Xinrong along to apologize to young Master Su Fong. However, Dong Xinrong is at the Heaven's Fate stage. She asked me to bring Master Apothecary Chu along. She said that as long as young Master Su Fong sees Master Apothecary Chu, he will understand everything. Su Fong was shocked. When he carefully sensed Master Apothecary Chu's fate aura, Su Fong faintly understood what was going on. Dong Xinrong had once said that she had made appropriate arrangements for Su Fong's grandfather's soul. This time, Dong Xianrong had asked the Chun clan leader to bring along an elder from the Medicine Divine Way. Within the fate aura of this Medicine Divine Way's master apothecary Chu, there was an aura that was connected to Su Fang's fate. It was obvious that Dong Xianrong had already arranged for his grandfather's soul to be reincarnated in the Medicine Divine Way. Furthermore, she had frequently interacted with this master apothecary Chu. Unexpectedly, Su Fang had never imagined that Dong Xianrong would make such arrangements for his grandfather's soul. At the same time, Su Fang felt a chill run down his spine when he saw Dong Xianrong scheming. Dong Xianrong had long seen that Su Fang's talent was extraordinary and that he would definitely not be an ordinary person in the future. Thus, after she captured Su Fang's grandfather's soul, she arranged for him to be reincarnated in the Medicine Divine Way. The Medicine Divine Way was the #1 alchemy force in the Eastern Xian Divine Domain. For Su Fang's grandfather to be reincarnated in the Medicine Divine Way, it could be said that he had obtained great fortune. If Su Fang became a powerful expert, just this matter alone would be enough to resolve the hatred between Su Fang and Dong Xianrong. If Su Fang became a nobody in the future, it would not be a loss for Dong Xianrong. Dong Xianrong is a powerful woman. Su Fang's heart was filled with emotions and shock. However, he did not ask Master Apothecary Chu any further. Right now, the matter had not been confirmed, and he could not confirm who his grandfather's reincarnation was. If it was exposed too early and his enemies found out, it would be a huge problem. When the Chun clan leader saw Su Fang's expression, he did not understand but felt that it was amazing. After hesitating for a while, he continued, "Coincidentally, the Medicine Divine Way has a troublesome matter and would like to ask young Master Su Fang for help. Thus, I took the liberty to bring Master Apothecary Chu to meet young Master Su Fang." Su Fang was surprised. "Ask for my help?" Master Apothecary Chu cupped his fists at Su Fang and said, "The matter is like this. A disciple of the Medicine Divine Way was invited by the Chamber of Commerce to refine elixirs. In the end, the elixir he refined killed someone. That Chamber of Commerce is unwilling to let go of the Medicine Divine Way and wants to control the Medicine Divine Way and make it a vassal of the Chamber of Commerce." Su Fang asked in astonishment, "The Medicine God Path is a pill refining sect in the Eastern Profound Divine Realm. There should be many forces and experts that are on good terms with them. What kind of merchant guild would be so greedy as to swallow the Medicine God Path?" Master Apothecary Chu smiled bitterly. "That Chamber of Commerce is not ordinary. The person behind it is the descendant of the Daozu." "The descendant of the Dongxian Daozu?" Su Fang raised his eyebrows. He did not expect the Medicine Divine Way's troubles to involve the Dongxian Daozu. No wonder no one dared to help the Medicine Divine Way. The Chun clan leader hurriedly explained, "The expert behind the Chamber of Commerce is not the descendant of the Daozu. Moreover, the Daozu strictly ordered his descendants not to interfere with the affairs of the various forces in the Eastern Xian Divine Domain. That Chamber of Commerce is just using the name of the Lord Daozu." Master Apothecary Chu sighed helplessly. "This matter is really troublesome. The Medicine Divine Way is not related to young Master Su Fang. I have troubled young Master Su Fang. I will take my leave now." Master Apothecary Chu was obviously at his wit's end. He was dragged to see Su Fang by the Chun clan leader and asked for Su Fang's help. He did not have much hope in a hopeless situation. Seeing that Su Fang was troubled, Master Apothecary Chu was about to leave. Su Fang suddenly said, "If I become the Medicine Divine Way's guest elder, I wonder if I can stop the Chamber of Commerce." The Chun clan leader was stunned. Master Apothecary Chu was stunned for a moment before he was overjoyed. "That's enough. That's enough. With young Master Su Fang's current reputation and your status as one of the top 10 Jioshuans having choice, even the Lord Daozu is paying attention to young Master. If young Master condescends to become the Medicine Divine Way's guest elder, that Chamber of Commerce will definitely not have the guts to swallow the Medicine Divine Way." Su Fang nodded and said, "That's good. I will let one of my Dharmakayas accompany Master Apothecary Chu to the Medicine Divine Way." He will be the Medicine Divine Way's guest elder. This. Master Apothecary Chu was hesitant. He was afraid that Su Fong would be the same as the Chamber of Commerce. It would be easier to invite the devil than to send him away. Su Fong changed to a primordial spirit telepathic message. Master Apothecary Chu, don't worry. I have no intention of meddling with the Medicine Divine Way. The reason I am helping the Medicine Divine Way is because one of my close relatives has been reincarnated in the Medicine Divine Way. Master Apothecary Chu was suddenly enlightened and his heart calmed down. Su Fong looked at the Chun clan leader and said, Lord Clan Leader, the grudges between me, Dong Xinzheng, and Dong Xianrong are written off. You don't have to worry about anything. Thank you, young Master Su Fong, for your magnanimity. The Chun clan leader was surprised and happy. He thanked Su Fong profusely. Su Fong immediately released his heavenly Dharma body and let it accompany Master Apothecary Chu to the Medicine Divine Way. Without the heavenly Dharma body by his side, Su Fong's overall strength would definitely be affected. However, the impact was not great. Inside, the heavenly Dharma body was a complete universe. There were countless cultivators, Big Goblin, and Su Fong's friends and subordinates in the Pansong universe's small worlds, great worlds, and myriad worlds. Therefore, Su Fong rarely used the heavenly Dharma body strength. Su Fong finally found his grandfather's whereabouts. In his opinion, this matter was more important than the finals of the Blood Valley. To be cautious, Su Fong directly let the heavenly Dharma body go to confirm it, and then guard the Medicine Divine Way. In addition, Su Fong also planned to choose a suitable space-time in the Eastern Xian Divine Domain and turn the heavenly Dharma body into a universe. This way, it could continuously absorb the energy in the chaotic void and grow rapidly. After sending off the Chun clan leader and Master Apothecary Chu, Su Fong let out a long sigh of relief. One of his biggest goals from the Pansong universe to the Eastern Xian Divine Domain was to save his grandfather's soul. Now, he was not 100% sure that his grandfather's reincarnation was in the Medicine Divine Way. However, with Su Fong's current strength and reputation, Dong Xianrong would not dare to lie to him about this matter. It would be meaningless to do so. With his grandfather's matter settled, Su Fong naturally felt more relaxed. There's one more thing. Gestating the heavenly Dharma core, he still lacked one of the spiritual items needed to cultivate the heavenly Dharma core. Now, he could not cultivate it. It was not difficult to find the missing spiritual item. After the top 10 ranking battle, he would have the opportunity to choose a treasure from Dongxian Tian's treasury. He would definitely be able to find the missing spiritual item. With his relationship with the Medicine Divine Way, Su Fong could ask the experts of the Medicine Divine Way to help him cultivate the heavenly Dharma core. The purple jade divine marrow that Su Fong obtained in the 5th stage of the finals of the Blood Valley could be used to nourish the heavenly Dharma core. For this, Su Fong specially asked Shi Xian Daozu for advice. The method was very simple. Soak the heavenly Dharma core in the purple jade divine marrow and let it absorb the life energy and essence in the divine marrow. After that, Su Fong settled into a state of secluded cultivation. Chapter 2911. Su Fong had been in seclusion in the Xianlang cave abode for more than 20,000 years, and more than 900 years had passed in the outside world. There was not much time left before the top 10 ranking battle. At this moment, Su Fong had advanced into the intermediate level of the Daolord realm, so the amount of accumulation he required to advance had become extremely vast. After over 20,000 years of cultivation, Su Fong had barely attained the normal state of an intermediate level Daolord, and he was still far away from the peak of the intermediate level Daolord realm. This was the result of Su Fong's sky-piercing Blood King, vine devouring the Heart Destroyer grandmother's cultivation, pills, and mystical items. If he didn't possess such shocking cultivation resources and the devouring ability of the Heaven Piercer Blood King vine, then if he cultivated honestly like most cultivators, then he would probably need a few 100,000 years or even 1,000,000 years of bitter cultivation before he could attain the intermediate Daolord realm. In addition to his cultivation, Su Fong's other gains were also not small. In the main pagoda of the Su Ruo Valley, He had used the heart of the alien race expert, Slayer, to sense the heavenly Tao. Over the past 20,000 years of cultivation and comprehension, his grasp of the Joshuan Limitless Sutra had improved by a lot. His realm in the cultivation of the Great Tao had also improved by a lot. The strength of the sky-piercing Blood King Rot Tan, Gue, and the other avatars had also improved significantly. This was especially true for the sky-piercing Blood King vines and Gue. They were devouring the corpses of the chrysalis race cultivators without restraint. What made Su Fong very happy was that Xuanxin, Qingyu, Bailing, and Luo were also cultivating in the Xianlang cave abode. Their improvement over the years was also very shocking. After absorbing the purple jade divine nectar, Xuanxin's face had completely recovered. Moreover, after fusing with the divine phoenix blood essence, his cultivation base continued to break through. At this moment, he had already reached the peak of the Tao Truth upper realm. Qingyu and Bailing had long reached a level beyond the Pansong universe, and with the help of a part of the divine phoenix blood, they were almost as strong as Xuanxin. Law's strength is the highest at this time. As a member of the Shura divine clan, he only needed to constantly devour the blood of living beings to rapidly improve his strength. With the resources provided by Su Fong, how could his speed of improvement not be astonishing? Law's current strength was comparable to an intermediate Tao Lord. These were Su Fong's closest relatives and friends. Seeing them become stronger together with him, Su Fong was naturally overjoyed. When the top 10 ranking battle is over, it's time to return to the Pansong universe and completely resolve the matter of evil god's descent. With Su Fong's current strength, it would be easy for him to destroy a low-level universe, and it wouldn't be difficult for him to solve the problem of Pansong universe. Suddenly, a thought traveled through the formation and came to the depths of the palace. It turned into Qin Heng's shadow outside the Xianlang Grotto Heaven. Master, a guest is here. A very important guest? Su Fong asked in surprise. If it was not a very important guest, Qin Heng also would not come and disturb him when he was in closed-door cultivation. It's a big shot from the Central Profound Divine Region's Yi clan, accompanied by Tuo Qianji and Exalted Spring Autumn. They're waiting in the reception hall of the City Lord's mansion. Middle Mystic Leaf clan? Su Fong raised his eyebrows and realized that trouble was coming. However, there was nothing to be afraid of. No one could prove that Yi Feibai's death had anything to do with Su Fong. As for Yi Feishuan, he was chased out of the Blood Valley for provoking Joshuan's experts. It had nothing to do with Su Fong. Besides, even if the Yi clan caught Su Fong killing Yi Feibai, the Yi clan could not touch him at all with his current status in Dongxian. He immediately flew out of the Xianlang Grotto Heaven and towards the City Lord's mansion. Suddenly, the surrounding environment changed drastically. What his eyes saw was no longer the scene of Fong Tian City, but a world of blooming peach blossoms. The fragrance of the flowers assailed his nostrils, and the falling petals were so beautiful that one could not help but want to indulge in it. Su Fong's consciousness was about to sink into the world of peach blossoms. Suddenly, the 7 colors Vajra's Tao heart flashed with an icy aura, waking Su Fong's consciousness. He saw a woman standing in front of him with her hands behind her back. She was dressed in a light yellow robe and had a peerless face that was breathtakingly beautiful. Will visualization technique. Su Fong's heart skipped a beat. To be able to execute the will visualization technique, that was a technique that only Tao profound experts who surpassed Tao Lords could execute. Because Su Fong possessed the 7 colors Vajra's Tao heart, the power of his will was incomparably strong. That was why he could execute the will visualization technique, Blood Prison Soul Slaying Saber. The woman in front of him had a non-existent aura and could execute the will visualization technique. She was obviously a Tao profound expert. Su Fong shouted coldly, "Who are you? How dare you ambush me in Fong Tian City?" The Eastern Xian Divine Region's cultivators are about to praise you to the heavens. Seeing you today, you do have some skills. No wonder Yi Feibai died in your hands, and even Yi Feishuan was disgraced by you. The woman's voice was cold but very pleasant to the ears. but her tone was filled with a rare, domineering, and heroic spirit. "So you're from a Yi clan?" Su Fong understood at once and said coldly, "You came to Fong Tian City as a guest, but ambushed me, the host, for no reason. Are all of you Yi clan members so domineering and rude? Just testing how much capability you have can't be considered domineering." That Yi clan woman laughed coldly in disdain. The gaze she looked at Su Fong with was like a cat playing with a mouse under its claws. Soon after, her tone became murderous. "Next, I'll let you know what true domineering is. I'll destroy your physical body, strip off your origin soul, and refine your soul forever. Remember, my name is Yi Fian, lest you still don't know who to hate when you're suffering the pain of your soul being refined." As soon as her voice faded, over a dozen thoughts were released, rapidly condensing into peach pits around Su Fong. Chi, 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 chi. The outer shell of the peach pit burst, rapidly growing into a sapling, then growing into a peach tree in the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint. During the process of the peach pit's growth, it released an astonishing suction force. Su Fong felt the life energy in his body start to flow away frantically, being absorbed by the peach pit, becoming nutrients for the peach tree's growth. Even his origin soul was torn apart by that strange power, about to be torn into over a dozen pieces and devoured by that peach tree. Worthy of being one of the 5 great divine clans of the central profound divine domain, the Yi clan, to possess such a powerful and exceptional divine ability, and even contain the will visualization technique. However, wanting to kill me, Su Fong, is laughable to the extreme. Su Fong let out a cold laugh in his heart, his eyes exuding traces of coldness. He was not an ordinary Tao Lord Cultivator, but a person who crossed realms. The Tao Profound Realm Cultivators who crossed realms to kill were not just 1 or 2. Blood Prison, Soul, Slashing Blade, Break. Su Fong displayed the will visualization technique, and, at the same time, also combined with the Blood Fiend Dharma body to display the Blood Prison, Soul, Slashing Blade. After more than 20,000 years of precipitation, the Blood Prison world that was created with the will visualization and the Tao of Slaughter laws became even more real. One could see the sea of blood roaring and countless corpses floating up and down. Those dozen or so peach trees were ceaselessly corroded and devoured within the sea of blood. A blood-red clothed Su Fong rose from the sea of blood, and with a slash of his blade, the blade light swept out, and the dozen or so peach trees were immediately chopped into pieces. The might of the Blood Prison Soul Slashing Blade did not decline, and the blade light swept towards Yi Fian. An intermediate Tao Lord Cultivator is actually able to execute the will visualization technique, and it's even an evil technique that has been lost since a long time ago. Yi Feishuan's defeat at your hands is not unjust. Yi Fian praised loudly, but there was no fear on her face. A peach-red Xian Guang shot out from between her brows, and it swiftly transformed into a 1-meter-long, gorgeous peach blossom. Its petals were as sharp as blades, and as it spun rapidly, it minced the blade light into pieces. Bang! The peach blossom instantly arrived in front of Su Fong, and it was about to mince Su Fong into pieces. Hiss! A dazzling blade light bloomed, and it carried an imposing aura that could annihilate everything as it slashed the peach blossom into pieces, and the blade light shattered along with it. You have quite a number of techniques. Interesting. Looks like I have to perk up my spirits to play with you. Yi Fian laughed coldly as she tossed out an embroidered handkerchief with a wave of her hand. The embroidered handkerchief swiftly appeared above Su Fong's head, and it transformed into a 30 long handkerchief that was embroidered with countless budding flowers. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. All the flower buds suddenly bloomed, and the extremely gorgeous petals emanated a pink mist that swiftly swept out and enveloped Su Fong. The dense fragrance of the peach blossoms seeped into Su Fong's Tao Palace and Tao Heart, and it made Su Fong feel warm. After that, an instinctive flame of desire swiftly blazed within Su Fong's body. Every single inch of his skin turned completely red, and he howled like a wild beast. Yi Fian flew over, and the gaze she shot at Su Fong was filled with complacency, ridicule, and boundless resentment. She stared at Su Fong and mocked. "You're one of the top 10 peerless geniuses in the Eastern Profound Divine region. Of course I won't really kill you, but I can still toy with you. Wait until I record your ugly appearance in a jade slip and sell on the market. I'm sure you'll make a fortune, right? Is that so?" Su Fong suddenly laughed coldly. Immediately after, a supreme divine might that ruled over all, life and death, the future and the past, surged out from Su Fong's body, instantly enveloping Yi Fian and the embroidered handkerchief Xianbao. "My lord's seal of 10 directions." Yi Fian's laughter came to an abrupt halt, and the divine light in her eyes changed. Su Fong's violet fate avatar charged out of his Dao palace, releasing a purple mist that enveloped the embroidered handkerchief Xianbao. Under the control of the violet fate avatar's divine might, the embroidered handkerchief began to tremble violently, resisting and unable to release that strange power. At the same time, Su Fong used my lord's seal of 10 directions, dominating Yi Fian and everything around her. Yi Fian was shocked to find that under Su Fong's divine might, everything about her was sealed, and she could only watch helplessly as she was shackled. Su Fong waved his hand and grabbed, pulling Yi Fian to his side. His eyes burned with desire as he stared at Yi Fian. "What did you just say?" Yi Fian panicked and said in a trembling voice, "I'm the eldest daughter of the Yi clan. If you dare touch a hair on my body, the Yi clan will pull out your tendons and skin you alive." Su Fong said, "The eldest daughter of the Yi clan? With such a status, I really can't do anything to you." Yi Fian immediately calmed down and said coldly, "Why aren't you letting me go? I won't touch a hair on your body, but you're so overbearing and arrogant. I have to teach you a lesson on behalf of your Yi clan elders." Su Fong's eyes flashed with evil, and his gaze fell on Yi Fian's perky butt. Yi Fian's heart trembled. "What are you doing?" "Don't worry, I won't touch a hair on your body. I just want to—" Chapter 29:12. Slap. Su Fong's palm landed on Yi Fian's body. Her entire body trembled. Su Fong's heart also trembled. Of course, it wasn't that Su Fong's willpower wasn't enough. Yi Fian's brocade, Xianbao, not only released the power to confuse one's Dao heart, but the aura it released could also evoke one's most instinctive desires. Although the brocade, Xianbao's power, couldn't control Su Fong's Dao heart, it still succeeded in evoking Su Fong's instinctive desire. The moment his palm touched Yi Fian's body, that feeling made the flames in his body burn even more fiercely. "Su Fong, ew! How dare you humiliate me like this? You're courting death." Yi Fian was shocked and angry. She was the eldest daughter of the Yi clan and was usually high and mighty. She could call the wind and summon the rain within the Yi clan. Outside, she relied on her identity and appearance to be praised everywhere. When had she ever been humiliated like this? Hearing Yi Fian's threat, the flames of desire in Su Fong's eyes burned even more fiercely. Buzz, the 7-colored Dao heart, emitted a cool aura, which immediately diluted the burning desire in Su Fong's heart. I actually fell for it. That brocade Xianbao is really powerful. Su Fong's heart skipped a beat, and he suddenly became completely clear-headed. Seeing that Su Fong had stopped moving, Yi Fian thought he was afraid and immediately began to act coquettishly and arrogantly again. "Su Fong, now you finally know what fear is, right? Obediently let me go, then kneel and kowtow. Maybe I'll be happy and spare your life." Slap. Su Fong waved his hand and slapped Yi Fian's face. The sound was incomparably loud and clear. He planned to completely destroy Yi Fian's arrogance and coquettishness. Otherwise, there would be endless trouble in the future. Of course, he couldn't hit her anymore. After all, she was a woman. He could kill her, but not humiliate her. If the Yi clan was forced into a corner, it would attract unnecessary trouble. "Su Fong, I will kill you. I will definitely kill you." Yi Fian felt a burning pain on her face. Her eyes were filled with tears, and her heart was filled with humiliation. In the reception hall of the city lord's mansion, Tuo Chinji, supreme holiness spring and autumn, and a dignified elder from the heaven pavilion sat majestically in their seats. Qin Hung trembled as he waited at the side. These three people were all top experts, and their identities were also incomparably shocking. Moreover, supreme holiness spring and autumn was Qin Heng's former master. How could he not be scared? Yi Fian's sneak attack on Su Fong could not escape the senses of the three peerless powerhouses. Tuo Chinji frowned and was about to stop him. The dignified elder said indifferently, "Yi Fian is a prodigy of our clan. She has long heard of Su Fong's fame. This time, she came to the Eastern Xian Divine Domain to exchange pointers with Su Fong. Lord Tuo Chinji, it's best that you don't interfere in the matters of the younger generation." Tuo Chinji let out a cold snort and stopped Yi Fian. Tuo Chinji was still very confident in Su Fong's strength. Little did he know, Yi Fian was restrained by Su Fong and even slapped in the face by Su Fong. The dignified elder couldn't sit still anymore. Tuo Chinji stroked his long white beard and chuckled. "Elder Yi, us elders shouldn't interfere in the matters of the younger generation. Besides, Su Fong didn't really mean to hurt Yi Fian. He just wanted to play a joke on her." The dignified elder snorted heavily, and his face turned ashen. Slap, 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 slap. Yi Fian's face was slapped by Su Fong more than 10 times. Although Su Fong didn't use his divine power, his physical strength was astonishing. Soon, Yi Fian's peerless face turned into a pig's head. At first, Yi Fian was shouting and cursing loudly. Then, she was in so much pain that tears flowed down her face. But in the end, her cries of pain turned into gasps. Her face was flushed red, and her graceful body couldn't stop twisting. This bitch, she actually likes to be abused. Su Fong was shocked and stunned. He immediately stopped. "If you dare to be impudent in Fongtian City again, don't blame Su Fong for being merciless. Next time, it won't be so simple." Su Fong forcefully suppressed the flames of desire in his heart. His cold gaze swept over Yi Fian's body. At this time, his purple fate avatar suppressed Yi Fian's brocade, Xian Bao, and sealed it in the space within his body. Su Fong withdrew his purple fate avatar and ignored Yi Fian. He flew towards the guest hall. Staring at Su Fong's back, Yi Fian gritted her teeth. Thinking about how she was humiliated by Su Fong, she felt humiliated and angry. She chased after Su Fong. Su Fong stepped into the hall. Just as he saw Tuo Chinji, supreme holiness spring and autumn, and a dignified elder from the Yi clan, a powerful will suddenly descended and enveloped him. The power of that will was astonishing. Su Fong felt as if a mountain was crushing down on him. He was a small tree that would be crushed by the mountain in an instant. Su Fong didn't hesitate to use his will visualization technique. A blood-red figure slashed out with his saber. The saber light was like a river of blood that surged into the sky, crashing into the pressure of the will. Boom! The saber light shattered instantly. The will released by the Yi clan elder was also shaken. However, it didn't completely shatter. Most of the will still hit Su Fong's Dao heart. The 7 colors Vajra's Dao heart trembled, shattering the will. Su Fong staggered and almost fell to the ground. The elder of the Yi clan let out a cry of surprise. He saw Yi Fian being humiliated by Su Fong. He was prepared to show his strength to Su Fong. Although he didn't use his full strength, the will released by a peerless expert like him could shatter the will of a Dao Lord and make them kneel and beg for mercy even if their Dao heart wasn't shattered. Tuo Chinji shouted coldly, "Elder Yi, don't forget that this is the Eastern Profound Divine Domain, not the Middle Profound Divine Domain. It's not your Yi clan." Elder Yi said coldly, "I'm just testing Su Fong. Why are you so angry, Lord Tuo Chinji?" Tuo Chinji snorted and looked at Su Fong. "Su Fong, this is Elder Yi from the Middle Profound Divine Domain's Yi clan. He came to Square Sky City to investigate the cause of Yi Feibai's death. Don't hide it, and don't be afraid. With me here, let's see who dares to touch you." Thank you, Lord. Su Fong didn't expect Tuo Qianji to be so protective of him. He was surprised. The Southern Profound Divine Domains cultivators had suddenly joined the Jiushuan Heavenly Selection, and Sima Xiaoxiao was about to take first place in the finals. If that was the case, the Eastern Profound Divine Domain would become a laughingstock in the Jiushuan. In the future, their cultivators wouldn't be able to raise their heads when they saw other cultivators. Su Fong was the only one who could defeat Sima Xiaoxiao. Even if he couldn't, he wouldn't lose so badly. It wasn't strange for Tuo Qianji to be so protective of Su Fong. Moreover, Tuo Qianji was very clear that Su Fong had attracted the attention of Dongxian Daozu. If Su Fong was humiliated by the Yi clan cultivators and Daozu questioned him, Tuo Qianji wouldn't be able to explain himself. How could he not do his best to protect Su Fong? Exalted Venerable Spring Autumn said, Su Fong, I know that you have some misunderstanding with Yi Fei Bai. Yi Fei Bai is a direct descendant of a Yi clan. His death in the Blood Valley Elite competition was suspicious. It's reasonable for the Yi clan to send people to investigate. You must explain everything clearly. Exalted Martial Sage Spring Autumn fanned the flames, causing Su Fong to be enraged. There are 10,000 participants in the Blood Valley Elite competition. Why doesn't this Lord of the Yi clan find all of them and question them one by one? The Yi clan suspects that I killed Yi Fei Bai. What evidence do they have? Elder Yi said indifferently. That's because you want to kill Yi Fei Bai and have the strength to do so. Moreover, the Yi clan doesn't need any evidence against a lowly race forsaken by the heavens like you. So what if they kill you directly? Su Fong sneered. So it's because of my lowly background that the Yi clan is so domineering in front of me. Elder Yi snorted. Don't think that you can look down on everything just because you're in the limelight now. In front of the Supreme Yi clan, you're at most a slightly bigger ant. Genius? In the Jiushuan Divine Realm, there are countless geniuses who died prematurely. The experts of the Eastern Xian Divine Realm can protect you for now. But can they protect you forever? If the Yi clan wants to kill someone, no one can stop them. Sir, from a Yi clan, you're right. My Su Fong is indeed from a lowly universe. My status is lowly, and I don't have any power to rely on. I have to fight for everything with my own hands. I was originally a mortal from a lowly universe. I've faced countless strong enemies and powers. However, my Su Fong has come from a lowly universe to where I am now. This is enough to prove that I can change my fate with my own efforts. I can trample all difficulties under my feet. My Su Fong has come to where I am today by stepping on the bones of countless enemies and powers. That's right. Compared to the Yi clan, I'm indeed insignificant. I'm as lowly as an ant. However, Elder Yi, can you guarantee that there won't be a day when my Su Fong soars into the sky? Can you be sure that when the time comes, the Yi clan won't become a pile of bones like those powerful enemies that I've trampled under my feet? Su Fong stood majestically. Even the torrential storm couldn't shake him in the slightest. A sense of pride arose spontaneously. Arrogant. I'll suppress you now. Let's see how you'll soar into the sky and how you'll trample my supreme Yi clan under your feet. Elder Yi let out a thunderous roar. The seat beneath him suddenly turned to dust. A wave of will rolled towards Su Fong with a crushing force. Rumble. Rumble after rumble of thunder came from the void. The terrifying will of the heavens formed a protective barrier around Su Fong, shattering Elder Ye's will attack into pieces. Jiushuan's heavenly laws? Fear appeared in Elder Ye's eyes. He didn't dare to continue attacking Su Fong. He didn't really want to kill Su Fong just now. Otherwise, he would attract the punishment of the Jiushuan's heavenly laws. The consequences would be unbearable for him. Tuo Qianji's figure flashed and stood in front of Su Fong. He said coldly, Elder Yi, don't blame me for being impolite if you continue to act so recklessly. Chapter 29:13. Tuo Qianji changed to a primordial spirit transmission. Elder Yi, I have no other choice. Let me give you a piece of advice. Don't treat Su Fong as a lowly ant without any background. Not only does Lord Daozu pay close attention to him, but there is also a peerless figure behind him that even the Yi clan cannot afford to offend. Don't bring trouble to the Yi clan. Elder Ye's heart shook. Offending Dongxin Daozu for a junior like Yi Feibai was obviously not a wise move for the Yi clan. Furthermore, from what Tuo Qinji said, Su Fong had an extremely powerful figure behind him that even the Yi clan could not afford to offend. A powerful figure like Tuo Qinji would not threaten the Yi clan with empty words. However, Elder Yi was not willing to give up just like that. Suddenly, Yi Fian transmitted a primordial spirit transmission. Elder Yi was stunned at first. After thinking for a while, the anger on his face quickly disappeared and turned into a smile. Then, he said to Su Fong, "I will not pursue Yi Feibai's matter anymore. However, you have to agree to one condition." Elder Yi was like a completely different person. Not only Su Fong, but Tuo Qinji and exalted martial artist Spring and Autumn were also stunned and confused. However, the smile on Elder Ye's face made Su Fong feel like a ferocious beast that suddenly revealed its ferocious fangs. "Calm down," Su Fong replied calmly. "Yi Feibai's death has nothing to do with me. If the Yi clan really believes that Yi Feibai was killed by me, I have nothing to say. I, Su Fong, will take all revenge. As for Elder Ye's condition, forgive me for not agreeing to it. It's fine if Elder Yi doesn't say it." Elder Yi said coldly, "Su Fong, don't be ungrateful. This is a good thing for both you and the Yi clan. It won't be too late for you to reply after hearing my condition." Exalted martial artist Spring and Autumn said imposingly, "Su Fong, since Elder Yi said so, it must be a good thing. Don't push your luck." Tuo Qinji also did not want Su Fong and the Yi clan to fall out. It would be best if they could resolve the grudges. So he advised, "Su Fong, listen to what Elder Yi has to say." Su Fong nodded and looked at Elder Yi. "I wonder what is the best of both worlds. Elder Yi, please tell us. Of the Yi clan, of the clan of the Yi clan's death, and reputation of the Yi clan also's death is a great loss. Of the clan's loss. Of the clan, of the clan, of the clan, of the clan. Su Fong, your talent is extraordinary. If I were to kill you, it would also be a loss to the human race. Thus, I thought a way to satisfy both sides." Su Fong sneered inwardly, but did not refute. He continued to listen. Elder Yi continued, "Su Fong, if you can join the Yi clan directly, I will arrange for a lady of the Yi clan to be your Dao companion. You will be considered to have married into the Yi clan and become a member of the Yi clan from then on. All the grudges will be written off. Join the Yi clan and marry into the Yi clan?" Su Fong was shocked and bewildered. He would never have thought that the elder of the Yi clan would come up with such a devious idea. Tuo Qinji was shocked as well. He then said decisively, "Elder Yi, Su Fong is Dongxuan's top genius. How can he marry into the Yi clan? Su Fong cannot agree to this condition." Elder Yi stroked his beard and said with a smile, "Lord Tuo Qinji, Su Fong is not a disciple of Heaven Pavilion, nor does he belong to any other forces in the Eastern Xian divine domain. Why can't he join the Yi clan? This concerns Su Fong's future. It should be decided by Su Fong himself. It is inappropriate for Lord Tuo Qinji to overstep your authority." Tuo Qinji let out an inexplicable chuckle. He had no words to refute Elder Ye's words. Su Fong said decisively, "I'm sorry. I've already become a disciple of a peerless master. I can't join any other forces. Please forgive me, Elder Yi. I will never agree to such a condition." Elder Yi was not angry. He looked at Su Fong and said, "No matter who you become a disciple of, there is no conflict between you marrying into the Yi clan. Besides, I can guarantee that as long as you join the Yi clan, you will receive the status and treatment of a core member. That is a good thing that countless cultivators will scramble for. Besides, the Yi clan's genius that I have appointed for you is none other than Yi Fian, who you had a misunderstanding with earlier. Are you not tempted by such a peerless woman?" "Yi Fian?" Su Fong was dumbfounded. Exalted Elder Spring Autumn said, "Yi Fian is the eldest daughter of the Yi clan. She is deeply doted on by the Yi clan's ancestor. Su Fong, if you can marry into the Yi clan and become Dao companions with her, it will be a wonderful thing. You are destined to soar in the future. Tua Qianji snorted coldly. Spring Autumn, you talk too much today. Exalted Elder Spring Autumn smiled embarrassedly. Please don't take offense, Lord. I'm just thinking for Su Fang's future. At the same time, I want to resolve the grudge between the Yi clan and the Eastern Profound Divine Region. That's why I'm a little impatient. Su Fang said firmly, Elder Yi, I'm really sorry. I have no intention of joining the Yi clan, and I have no interest in Yi Fian. I can't agree to this. Elder Yi snorted and said, Su Fang, you have to think carefully. You don't know how many peerless geniuses want to join our Yi clan. You don't even know how many elites from powerful forces admire and pursue Yi Fian. A bright future and beautiful women are at your fingertips. As long as you agree to it, you'll have to struggle less for many years and overcome fewer obstacles in your life. Su Fang spoke in a firm voice. Of course I, Su Fang, am aware of these benefits. However, I would rather struggle for countless more epochs and face more difficulties and dangers than accept the rewards bestowed upon me by others or the so-called benefits imposed upon me. I would also not exchange my own fate and freedom for any benefits. Tua Qianji's gaze towards Su Fang was full of praise. He laughed heartily and said, Good, good. You're indeed a man of Dongxian. You have backbone and courage. Elder Ye's face darkened at once. Su Fang, it looks like you're really going against my clan. Su Fang spoke faintly. Not agreeing to the Yi clan's conditions is going against the Yi clan. Elder Ye's logic is truly overbearing. Tua Qianji smiled and said, Elder Yi, I've seen women being forced into marriage, but this is my first time seeing men being forced into marriage. Elder Yi has broadened my horizons today. Ha ha. Good. Su Fang, you're very good. Elder Yi stared at Su Fang. The murderous intent in his eyes was undisguised. Tua Qianji said in a low voice, Elder Yi, I'll say it again. Don't bring trouble to the Yi clan. Don't worry, the Yi clan won't use its power to crush a lowly ant. Su Fang, when you come to Central Mystic Divine Region to participate in the Jiushuan Heaven's Chosen Finals, my clan's genius disciples will treat you well. I'll take my leave now. Elder Yi said in a low voice and was about to walk out of the hall. Suddenly, Yi Fian rushed into the hall. Tua Qianji, an exalted martial artist Spring and Autumn, looked at Yi Fian, then looked at Su Fang. Their eyes became strange. Yi Fian yelled at Su Fang, Su Fang, you bastard! My identity, my appearance, my power, which part of me doesn't deserve you, a lowly being from the heaven-forsaken slave clan? Su Fang had just beaten up this eldest Miss Yi and made her suffer. Shouldn't she hate Su Fang to the core? Su Fang touched the tip of his nose and smiled bitterly. Yi Fian stared at Su Fang fiercely and said with gritted teeth, Su Fang, you took advantage of this great ant. Don't think you can deny it. This great ant wants you. Just you wait. This great ant will get you sooner or later. Let's see how you can escape from this great ant's palm. Tua Qianji laughed involuntarily. Su Fang felt his head swell up. Why did he touch that eldest young lady Yi for no reason? Now there's trouble, big trouble. Shut up. Elder Yi was so angry that his whole body trembled. Embarrassing. This time, the Yi clan had lost a lot of face. It was Yi Fian's idea to let Su Fang marry into the Yi clan. Elder Yi thought that it was a good idea, so he accepted it without hesitation. Little did he know that Su Fang was not moved at all. If this matter was spread out, wouldn't the Yi clan become the laughing stock of the Eastern Xian Divine Region? Now that Yi Fian wanted to stick to Su Fang and not let go, how could Elder Yi not be angry? Immediately, Elder Yi rolled out a divine aura and enveloped Yi Fian. In a flash, he disappeared into the void. Tua Qianji stroked his beard and looked at Su Fang. He said with a smile, Su Fang, although this great one is against you marrying into the Yi clan, if you can take that eldest young lady Yi as your Dao companion, it might not be a bad thing. You should think about it carefully. Su Fang smiled bitterly and said, My lord, I, Su Fang, have always been clean and honest. Moreover, I already have a Dao companion. Tua Qianji waved his hand and interrupted Su Fang. He snorted and said, Clean and honest? How did you provoke Sima Xiao Xiao in Su Ruo Valley? I saw the scene of you taking advantage of her very clearly. When you took advantage of Yi Fian just now, this great one also saw it clearly. The supreme elder of spring and autumn also looked at Su Fong with disdain. Su Fong hurriedly explained, "My lord, please listen to my explanation. When this great one was as young as you, cough, 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 I focused on preparing for the upcoming top 10 ranking battle. As for the Yi clan, the middle Xianyi clan, Heaven Pavilion will make the decision for you. However, how to deal with that eldest young lady Yi is up to you. Whether you want to take her as your Tao companion or as your concubine or abandon her, that is your business. This great one has no control over it. If you have the ability, you can also take Sima Xiao Xiao as your Tao companion." Ha! Tuo Qianji laughed and walked out of the guest hall. The supreme elder of spring and autumn also left. Su Fong was speechless and smiled bitterly. It seemed like the enmity between him and the Yi clan would be endless. Qin Heng suddenly said, "Master, Lord Tuo Qianji's words might be reasonable. Why don't you consider it?" Su Fong said, "Qin Heng, this lord just came out of seclusion. I need to find someone to practice with. You can practice with this lord for a while." Chapter 29:14. Time flew by. The battle for the top 10 in the Jiushuan Blood Valley was approaching. Before the ranking battle, the treasure refiners of the Divine Cauldron Palace had finally refined the pair of B-wings that Su Fong had obtained in the 5th stage into a peak supreme grade Xianbao. An elder of the Divine Cauldron Palace had personally delivered it. 10 years before the xenophobic battle, Su Fong left Square Sky City and prepared to head to Daoless City. "Farewell, master." Countless cultivators of Square Sky City knelt down when they saw Su Fong's figure. In a training hall in Square Sky City, a boy and a girl respectfully knelt on the ground and kowtowed. These two youths were the Gao tribe's people that Su Fong had helped in the vast plains, Gao Chuan and Gao Li. At this time, the Gao tribe had become the largest tribe in the vast plains. The brother and sister had long left the Gao tribe and come to Square Sky City. Because of Su Fong and Gao Tianlei, the two of them were now special disciples in Square Sky City's training hall. Their status was unparalleled. If it weren't for Su Fong, the two of them would have exhausted their lifespans and turned into a pile of dust. How could they have their current glory? The two of them were naturally grateful to Su Fong. Gao Chuan even regarded Su Fong as a role model. In Square Sky City, there were many descendants of immortals that Su Fong had saved. When they saw Su Fong's figure, they all knelt on the ground and kowtowed sincerely. "I wish young master Su Fong a victory and first place in the heaven selection. Young master Su Fong is invincible. Young master Su Fong will definitely win supreme glory for our Eastern Xian Divine Realm in this trip to the Blood Valley." Many cultivators and experts of various forces who had come to Square Sky City to visit Su Fong had never been able to see Su Fong. When they saw Su Fong now, they all cupped their fists and bowed to Su Fong. Su Fong cupped his fists to the foreign cultivators. Just as he was about to use his movement technique to leave, he suddenly caught a glimpse of two cultivators in the crowd. Su Fong immediately stopped. "Lord Feng Han, I trust you have been well since we last met." Feng Han. It turned out that Feng Han and Feng Jinhua from the Feng clan were also among the foreign cultivators. A big shot of the Feng clan brought Feng Han and Feng Jinhua and flew toward Su Fong. The Feng clan magnate cupped his fists and bowed to Su Fong. In the past, Feng Han and Feng Jun were rude and offended young master Su Fong. This one specially brought the two of them to the Square Heaven City to apologize to young master Su Fong. "Young master Su Fong, please forgive us." Feng Han and Feng Zhenhua lowered their heads and bent their waists, looking both respectful and fearful. In reality, the two of them had mixed feelings in their hearts. They were conflicted, angry, humiliated, and all sorts of emotions. Su Fong's cold eyes swept across Feng Han and Feng Zhenhua. She said indifferently, "You have offended me. Su Fong can let bygones be bygones. However, you have treated Holy Lady as a commodity and made a deal with Dong Xinzheng. You have to give Holy Lady an explanation. When Holy Lady wakes up, You can go and apologize to her yourselves." After she finished speaking, Su Fang's figure flashed and turned into a burning flame. She quickly disappeared from the sight of the three Feng clan members. Looking in the direction where Su Fang disappeared, Feng Han's eyes were lifeless, and he looked absent-minded. The scene in the Pansong universe that year was still vivid in his mind. He could never have imagined that the lowly ant back then had now become an existence that made the entire Feng clan tremble. Dallas City. The top 10 ranking battle had yet to begin, but the atmosphere was extremely solemn. The original intention of this Jiuquan Heaven selection was to select the true peerless geniuses from the Jiuquan Divine Domain. However, with the participation of the cultivators from the Southern Profound Divine Domain and other divine domains, as well as the Big Goblin, things had changed. The top 10 ranking battle this time had evolved into a battle for the reputation of the Eastern Profound Divine Domain. If the first place of the Eastern Profound Divine Domain was taken away by an outsider, it would be a great blow to the Eastern Profound Divine Domain's reputation. The cultivators of the Eastern Profound Divine Domain would have to lower their heads when they met cultivators from other divine domains in the future. Once their reputation fell, it would bring about a loss of benefits, especially at the critical moment when the other races were about to invade the human world. It was because of the importance of the top 10 ranking battle that many Dongxian cultivators were so nervous. The hope of the Eastern Profound Divine Domain's cultivators winning the first place was slim. All the Dongxian cultivators in Dallas City, including Dongxuan's powerhouses, were extremely depressed and heavy. To avoid being disturbed, Su Fang made his way to Dallas City unhurriedly. He only entered the city on the day the top 10 ranking battle began. Looking up at the Heaven's Chosen God list in the sky above Dallas City, Su Fang's eyes shone brightly. This time, I want to rank first on the Heaven's Chosen God list with my own strength. My name will shake the Jiuquan and achieve the glory that belongs to Su Fang. Suddenly, Tuo Qinji's voice echoed in the sky above Dallas City. The top 10 ranking battle of Jiuquan's Heaven's Chosen Blood Valley will begin in 6 hours. Top 10 geniuses, prepare yourselves. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Silhouettes leaped into the air from various parts of the city. That's Dongxuan's glory. I heard that Dongxuan's glory has lasted for 1,000 years. With Daozu's personal guidance, they might have a chance to defeat Sima Xiao and win Dongxuan's first place. Gu Tianqi, shoot Chongxiao. Sima Xiao. That girl in black is Sima Xiao. With a sway, Su Fang arrived in the air and stood with his hands clasped behind his back. Su Fang's appearance caused a huge commotion in Dallas City. It far surpassed Dongxuan's glory and Sima Xiao's. It was not only Su Fang's dazzling performance in the Jiuquan's Heaven's Chosen God list. It was also because Su Fang was like most of the cultivators in the Heaven's Forsaken Wasteland, a tribe forsaken by the heavens from a low-level universe. Su Fang's various performances in the Blood Valley had shocked and impressed countless cultivators. The Rock Prince snorted and shook his head. When this king's son sweeps Dongxuan's geniuses and tramples Su Fang under his feet, we'll see how these humans cry. The demon youth sneered. Are you going to wipe out me and Miss Sima as well? The Rock Prince retorted, Of course, I won't be soft-hearted to crush a little loach like you. But for Miss Sima, I'll only conquer her in bed, not on stage. The Yao race was like this. They said whatever they wanted and did whatever they wanted. They were domineering and unreasonable, cruel and violent. The Rock Prince's words immediately attracted the murderous gazes of South Mystic cultivators and Sima Xiao's icy glare. The Rock Prince snickered. He looked at Su Fang and the other Dongxian geniuses and said, Don't worry, you useless Dongxian trash. This king's son will represent East Mystic Divine Region and participate in the finals of Zhongxian. I guarantee that he'll be in the top 3 of the Jiuquan. The ranking will be under Dongxuan's name then, so you don't have to worry about anything. The South Mystic cultivator, Fu Xinai, snorted. The one who will represent Dongxian in the finals is our South Mystic genius. What does it have to do with a shameless big goblin like you? The big goblin, a genius from South Mystic Divine Region, dared to look down on the East Mystic Divine Region's geniuses. Dongxian Hui Wang, Gu Qianqi, and Shu Chongxiao gritted their teeth in anger. Dallas City was in an uproar, followed by angry curses. Dongshuan's geniuses are worried about the top 10 ranking match this time. If anyone of Dongxian Lai, Dongxian Xinyang, or Dongxian Qinghua had stayed in the Blood Valley to participate, this wouldn't have happened. We can only let the South Mystic geniuses and Big Goblin be arrogant for a while. When the finals begin, Dongxian Lai and the other Dongxian geniuses will definitely teach them a lesson. The powerhouses of East Mystic Divine Region could no longer sit still in Dallas City's mayor's residence. Divine light flashed from the main seat in the center. Tua Qianji's figure appeared on the throne. Have faith in Dongshuan's geniuses. Su Fong and Dongxian Hui Wang might have a chance to compete with Sima Xiaoxiao for first place. Dongshuan's strength has improved tremendously in the past 1,000 years under Daozu's personal guidance. They might have a chance to defeat Sima Xiaoxiao. Then Su Fong, it'll be difficult for him to compete with Sima Xiaoxiao. Su Fong once injured Sima Xiaoxiao in Shirua Valley. If they meet in the top 10 ranking match, the scene in Shirua Valley might not be impossible to repeat. In Shirua Valley, Su Fong was only able to injure Sima Xiaoxiao because he had obtained extraordinary fortune and his cultivation base was restricted. There won't be any restrictions in the top 10 ranking match. It'll be difficult to defeat Sima Xiaoxiao again. The powerhouses discussed animatedly, feeling a little dejected. In the sky above Dallas City, 10 geniuses stood in the air, waiting quietly for the moment to enter the Blood Valley. Whoosh! A silhouette soared into the air, heading straight for Su Fong. It was a woman dressed in white. She was an outstanding beauty, and her cultivation base was extraordinary as well, reaching the height of Lower Dallas realm. The people in Dallas City did not understand what the woman wanted to do. Everyone's gaze was focused on her. At this moment, the woman had replaced the top 10 geniuses and become the center of attention. The woman seemed to be extremely shy, timid, and trembling under the gazes of everyone. She looked at Su Fong and said, "Young Master Su Fong, my name is Du Zhixiang, and I'm the Holy Maiden of the enigmatic Maiden Palace." What's the matter? Su Fong couldn't help but be stunned. He didn't know this woman, nor had he heard of the enigmatic Maiden Palace. Du Zhixiang's face flushed red, and she seemed to be unable to speak. Su Fong said in surprise, "If you have something to say, just say it." Du Zhixiang mustered up her courage and said loudly, "I wish young Master Su Fong the best in the ranking match. If young Master Su Fong is able to seize the crown, then I'm willing to devote myself to you." Su Fong was both shocked and astounded. He hurriedly said, "I'll definitely do my best in the ranking match. But I already have 2 Dao companions. Young Miss Du, please retract your words of devotion." Du Zhixiang said with a red face, "Young Master Su Fong likes beautiful women. Who in the Eastern Xian Divine Region doesn't know that? I'm not as strong as Sima Xiaoxiao, and my status is not as good as the young Miss of the Yi clan. However, I'm confident that my appearance will not lose to theirs. Even if I'm not qualified to be young Master's Dao companion, I'll be satisfied to be young Master Su Fong's concubine." After saying that, Du Zhixiang covered her face and flew into the city. Su Fong was dumbfounded. Dallas City was silent for a moment, and then burst into laughter. Gu Qianqi wanted to see the world in chaos. He smiled and said, "Congratulations, Brother Su. The ranking match hasn't even started, and you already have a beautiful woman dedicating herself to you. I'm impressed, and at the same time, I'm extremely envious." Su Fong smiled bitterly and helplessly. "Misunderstanding, it's purely a misunderstanding. When did I, Su Fong, like beautiful women?" Shu Chongxiao snorted and looked at Su Fong with disdain. "You took advantage of Sima Xiaoxiao in Su Ruo Valley. This is obvious to all. Not long ago, you abandoned the young Miss of the Yi clan and completely angered the Yi clan. This matter has already spread throughout the Eastern Xian Divine Region. Who will believe that you don't like beautiful women?" Chapter 29:15. Shu Chongxiao and Gu Tianqi's words struck Su Fong like lightning. He staggered and almost fell from the sky. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. More than a dozen ladies flew over from Dallas City. Su Fong, if you can get first place, I'll let you have whatever you want. I'll never rely on you in the future. Su Fong, that Sima Xiao Xiao has no breasts and no buttocks. How can you be attracted to such a woman? If you can get first place, I'll let you know what a real woman is. Su Fong, kill Sima Xiao Xiao, and you'll be Dongshuan's #1. To motivate Su Fong, the ladies went all out. They were either reserved, bashful, or straightforward as they made their promises to Su Fong. Gu Tianqi and Shu Chongxiao guffawed. Even Gung Ming and the geniuses from the other god domains were guffawing. Dongshuan's glorious emperor snorted coldly, playing to the gallery clowns. Dongshuan's cultivators are all disgraced. Su Fong closed his eyes helplessly and sealed all his senses. Guffaws came from Dallas City. The tense and solemn atmosphere before the top 10 ranking match was gone. Sima Xiao Xiao could no longer keep her cool after being mocked by the Dongxian ladies. Her chilling voice echoed throughout Dallas City. Su Fong, if you can defeat me in the ranking match, I'm willing to be your slave. If you fail, I, Sima Xiao Xiao, will take your head. Dallas City fell into a deathly silence in an instant. Su Fong opened his eyes and swept Sima Xiao Xiao with a divine light. With a smile on his lips, he spoke in a domineering tone. I, Su Fong, am very happy to have such a slave. A commotion broke out in Dallas City. Swoosh! A crimson light gushed out from the void and enveloped the 10 geniuses. The blood-red space quickly extended into the surroundings before finally stabilizing and transforming into a space with an area of 500 kilometers. Within the space, a mountain peak that looked like it was made of blood stood tall. It was the Blood Valley's Slaughter Mountain. The 10 geniuses were swept to the square at the peak of Slaughter Mountain by a divine aura. 1,000 feet wide crimson substance floated above the square. There was a world above the substance, used as the space for the top 10 ranking match. This time, Dongshuan's battle of the top 10 finalists was being held in public, unlike the past where the outsiders could only watch through the God's chosen list. Swoosh! 3 silhouettes appeared above the crimson substance on Slaughter Mountain. Other than the Jiushuan experts from other god domains, there were 2 other Jiushuan powerhouses from other god domain. Their auras were powerful auras. They were at the same height as the Jiushuan powerhouses from before. Jiushuan. The final battle of the 9 profound heaven selection Blood Valley will now begin. The rules. The majestic voice of the 9 Xian elite passed through the space of the Blood Valley and transmitted to Dallas City. And the was the divine was the word of the peoples. Were separated from the heaven-forsaken barren region. There was a mystical world called the Divine Medicine World. The entire profound world was an endless mountain range with countless towering peaks. It was said that the Divine Medicine World was a natural substance born in the chaos. It was discovered by a powerhouse from the Divine Realm and moved to Dongxian with his supreme power. Countless rare herbs grew in the mountains, attracting countless alchemists to stay in the mystical world. Gradually, a powerful force was formed. This was the top alchemy force in the Divine Realm, the Divine Medicine Tao. Due to the ability of an alchemist, they were indispensable to any cultivator. Therefore, alchemists had a high status and were very rich. Not only were they rich, but their connections were also very deep. No cultivator or force would offend an alchemist unless they had no other choice. The medicine god Tao was the top alchemy sect in the Eastern Xian divine domain, gathering the best alchemists in the entire Dongxian. Therefore, their influence in the Eastern Xian divine domain was extraordinary. Even top forces like the 3 supreme mysterious sects and the Luo Shao sword sect would not easily offend the medicine god Tao. However, this was all in the past. In the past, there was an endless stream of cultivators who came to the divine medicine Tao to ask for pills. They almost broke through the gates of the divine medicine Tao. However, at this moment, the mountain gate of the medicine divine path was deserted. It could be described as completely deserted. The reason could not be more simple. An alchemist from the divine medicine Tao had refined a pill that killed someone and offended a force that even the divine medicine Tao could not afford to offend. Seeing that the divine medicine Tao was about to fall into someone else's control, no one dared to come. The force that the divine medicine Tao had offended was called the Bouching Chamber of Commerce. Its business covered the entire divine realm. Logically speaking, no matter how rich the Chamber of Commerce was, it would be difficult to shake a powerful force, let alone an alchemy sect like the divine medicine Tao. However, the backing of the Bouching Chamber of Commerce was shocking. They were the direct descendants of Dongxian Daozu. In the divine realm of Dongxian Daozu was supreme Dongshuan sky. No matter how powerful the divine medicine Tao was, how could it defy the heavens? Although Dongxian Daozu had strictly ordered his descendants not to interfere in the affairs of the major forces, who would take these words seriously. Besides, there were too many descendants of Dongxian Daozu. They formed a huge clan in the divine realm of Dongxian. He could not control all of them at all times. Even if there were people who committed crimes in the name of Dongxian Daozu, no one reported to Dongxian Daozu. Over time, some ambitious people among the descendants, driven by profit, had long forgotten about Dongxian Daozu's ban. Moreover, the divine medicine Tao was in the wrong this time. The Bouching Chamber of Commerce took the opportunity to swallow the divine medicine Tao. Although it was domineering, no one dared to stand up for the divine medicine Tao. Besides, who could guarantee that the Bouching Chamber of Commerce's annexation of the divine medicine Tao was not ordered by Daozu himself? Just as the battle for the top 10 of the Jiushuan heavenly selection was about to begin, the Bouching Chamber of Commerce's treasured ships made a grand dash for the divine medicine Tao. The ship at the front was covered in vast formations and decorated with countless treasures. It exuded a boundless aura of treasures. Just this treasure ship alone was comparable to the entire wealth of a medium-sized power. It could be seen how noble and wealthy the owner of the treasure ship was. A yellow-robed youth stood majestically at the bow of the ship. His black hair was as smooth as water, and he had a slender and handsome face. He exuded a transcendent air of nobility. The divine medicine Tao was in sight. A purple-faced, middle-aged man next to him spoke. 17th Highness has annexed the divine medicine Tao in one fell swoop and made a great contribution to the clan. The position of successor of the Dongxian heavenly clan will surely belong to 17th Highness. Only the Dongxian Daozu dared to call himself the sky in the divine realm of Dongxian. The so-called Dongxian heavenly clan was the unique title of the Daozu clan. And this yellow-robed youth's identity was even more remarkable. Not only was he a direct descendant of the Dongxian heavenly clan, but he was also a candidate for the future successor. This was why he was honored as a highness. The eyes under the yellow-robed youth's sword-like eyebrows flashed with a domineering luster. He smiled lightly and said, "The divine medicine Tao overestimated themselves. I had already asked them to join the Bouching Chamber of Commerce, but they were incomparably arrogant and turned a deaf ear to my words." The purple-faced middle-aged man said respectfully, 17th Highness, didn't the divine medicine Tao fall into your hands with a little trick? The yellow-robed youth's sword-like eyebrows furrowed. The table manners this time are a little too ugly. It will certainly cause a great disturbance. If the great ancestor finds out, the purple-faced middle-aged man smiled. 17th Highness, you worry too much. With the great ancestor's supreme strength, what happens in the divine realm of Dongxian can escape his eyes. If he wanted to stop it, he would have spoken long ago. Why wait until now? The yellow-robed youth was shocked. Then why didn't the great ancestor stop it? The purple-faced middle-aged man said with a smile, "That's because the entire divine realm of Dongxian belongs to the great ancestor. Of course, that includes the divine medicine Tao. Now, no matter who the divine medicine Tao falls into, isn't it the same thing to Lord Daozu? Why would an old man like him care about such a trivial matter?" That's right. That's exactly the case. After taking over the divine medicine Dao, this highness is destined to be the successor of the clan. The yellow-robed youth no longer had any worries and looked high-spirited. The treasured ship appeared outside the divine medicine Dao's boundary. The leader of the divine medicine Dao led many higher-ups and respectfully welcomed the yellow-robed youth and the hundreds of experts under his command into the conference hall of the divine medicine Dao. They sat on the throne. The yellow-robed youth went straight to the point. The divine medicine Dao has been given such a long time. I'm sure they have thought it through by today. This highness has come this time to get a result. The leader of the divine medicine Dao was a middle-aged man. His skin was rosy and incomparably soft, like the skin of a baby. Not only was his cultivation unfathomable, but he was also a top-notch alchemist. The leader of the divine medicine Dao slowly said, "The divine medicine Dao is willing to compensate the loss of the treasure formation chamber of commerce 100 times over and hand over the alchemist for your highness to deal with. We hope that the treasure formation chamber of commerce will be magnanimous this time." The yellow-robed youth smiled indifferently and said domineeringly, "The alchemist of the divine medicine Dao poisoned my clan's genius to death with the poisonous pills refined by him. Is the life of Daozu's descendant so worthless? The divine medicine Dao has no other choice but to become a branch of the Treasure Formation Chamber of Commerce. The Treasure Formation Chamber of Commerce has gone too far." All the higher-ups of the divine medicine Dao were furious, but there was nothing they could do. The leader of the divine medicine Dao remained silent for a moment and looked at one of the higher-ups. "Master Apothecary Chu, go and invite Elder Su over." The yellow-robed youth sneered. "Elder Su?" The purple-faced, middle-aged man sneered in disdain. "Even if we invite all the great elders of the three supreme profound sects and the Luo Shao Sword sect, we still won't be able to save the medicine god Dao this time." The other higher-ups of the medicine divine path looked at each other. Clearly, they did not know that Elder Su had appeared in the medicine divine path. Besides, even if Elder Su had a great background, what could he do to resolve the current crisis of the medicine god Dao sect? Half an hour later, Master Apothecary Chu walked into the hall with a black-robed youth. Seeing this black-robed young man, the higher-ups of the medicine god Dao sect, who still had a glimmer of hope, immediately let out helpless sighs. The purple-masked, middle-aged man's divine light swept over the black-robed youth. He noticed that Shunshi was merely an intermediate Dao Lord, and he really could be considered to be a formidable genius since he was able to possess such a cultivation at such an age. However, it was truly laughable for this mere youth to want to save the medicine god Dao from the hands of the Tian clan. The yellow-robed young man didn't even look at Su Fang. He said to the leader of the medicine divine way indifferently, "I will give the medicine divine way one more incense stick of time. If you don't make a decision, don't blame the Treasure Formation Chamber of Commerce for being ruthless.